We'll take our seats. I will call to order this meeting of the Oversight Committee. It is 8:30 a.m. Dr. Hernandez, please proceed with the roll call.
Okay. Dr. Cummings.
Present.
Ms. Kane.
Here.
Mr. Mark. Here. Mr. Montgomery.
In living color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Wright. Here. Here.
Thank you. Members, moving to item 3, if you have the draft minutes from the February 19th and March 21st Oversight Committee meetings in your agenda, behind tab 1. Are there any corrections to the minutes as circulated? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 19th and March 21st Oversight Committee meetings.
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, moving to item number 4. Our next agenda item is public comment. Texans created CPRIT. Opening our meetings with public comment underscores this board's commitment to transparency and accountability. Mr. Ellis, has CPRIT received any requests to provide public comment?
We have not, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Moving on. Now we'll go to item number 5, the Chief Executive Officer report. Ms. Doyle, will you provide the Chief Executive Officer's report?
Thank you. So my memo is behind tab 2. I will keep it brief because we've got a full agenda today, including $93 million in awards. So it's always a great day when we're doing that. We will also have the University Advisory Committee presentation, and it will be in person. So this is will be exciting to hear their annual report. I always try and think of kind of some theme to talk with you about. And, I think this meeting and this season is a season of transition for CPRIT. So this will be, well, let me start with the legislative session first. When we were meeting back in February in this room, we were just getting started with the legislative session. Now we're in that sprint towards the final days. It has been a good session for CPRIT. We had 3 exceptional item requests. At least 2 of them looked pretty good. So the 10 FTEs were included in both base bills. So that will be something we will be adding more staff, desperately needed. And especially we've got some new positions, a data scientist, the IP database position, and also an events relations person. As we are doing more and more and more across the state, they will help us. The event relations person will help us in terms of planning some of these, mini CPRIT conferences. And so that's exciting. We also had the reappointment of Cindy Payne, so not a season of transition for that. Luckily, you're going to be rock solid foundation for us for the next 6 years as we continue through. The other legislative issue that I think will is looking good is the capital budget item. Thank you all for coming together in March so that we could add that special item. This will allow us to move forward very expeditiously in terms of getting a new grant management platform. And you'll hear about that today when we talk about the internal audit and the FSRs. So I appreciate you guys kind of acting with us to get this in front of the legislature to allow us to create the capital budget so that we can move forward and not have to wait 2 more years. So thank you. So that's the legislative session. Luckily, they will, I think, fortunately for them and for us, they will leave Austin in the beginning of June. Hopefully no more special sessions, but we'll wait and see on that. When we look internally to CPRIT, I think you all know this is probably Dr. LeBeau's last Oversight Committee meeting. So I will say, it's been about a year when Dr. LeBeau told Wayne and me that she would like to transition out of CPRIT. And I remember saying to her, please, can we just make it through the legislative session? And she, with, grace and forbearance, said yes, that she would do that. And I wish I would have said the legislative session of 2031. I should have specified, but I appreciate, her doing that very much. It has, again, provided a rock solid foundation for us, allowed us time to do a very good search, and we will talk about that in closed session. But I'll say again, and I've said it to her, there's still time. We haven't made an offer. She has been incredible. I think all of us can say this, for CPRIT and for the academic research program. And I think has been a wise counsel for all of us. Also, this is going to be the last oversight committee where Ramona Magid will be our chief prevention officer. So again, we're just losing another stalwart. Ramona's been with CPRIT since January of 2000, so 15 years, and has not only made the prevention program what it is, but I've said it before and I'll say it again, she has played the unsung role of really being the head of managing a lot of our data, the data that we report every quarter, everything that looks simple when you see it on paper, including the number of CPRIT scholars, is a hard fought number that you have to make sure that we're all reporting it the same way, that we're all using the same standards when we report it. So that is a decade-long project that she has headed up. So we will miss her wise guidance both on the prevention side and on the data side, and just being one of our foundational members of CPRIT. We are also losing our our accountant, Michelle Huddleston, who is retiring after 46 years of state service. Before she was part of CPRIT, she was actually part of our predecessor agency, the Texas Cancer Council. Lisa Nelson also was part of the Texas Cancer Council. So we have long history with these staff members, and with Michelle Huddleston has, obviously earned a well-deserved retirement, but it is always hard to see people move on. We will be adding new staff, and all of this, we will keep mission in mind, and I'm excited about what's coming. The second this legislature, gavels out on sine die, we'll be looking ahead to the 2027 legislative session. We'll be looking ahead to how to communicate what CPRIT is doing, and how we can accelerate our mission faster, better, and serve Texans. So thank you all for your support during this time. And if you can, give Lisa Nelson a hug. She heads up our HR. And so she's going to be involved in all of these job postings and job interview processes. So with that, I will conclude my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doyle. Do we have any questions regarding the CEO report?
I should have added on the legislative front, all of you know this, but the Dementia Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, that legislation was passed, including the constitutional amendments. So the legislation is in front of the governor for his signature now, and we will have a vote in November for the constitutional amendment for DPRIT. But I wanted to bring that up and especially note it for you. Hopefully you've seen this. If not, I can certainly provide you the video clips of when it was talked about in committee hearings and on the floor. And every single time it was talked about, CPRIT was always mentioned, referenced, spoken about as the shining example. Many, many times people would say, this is just CPRIT, for dementia, as the shorthand for the legislators to know, okay, we've got this. And that is a testament to the leadership that you guys have all put in place here, that we have, have the integrity and the shining example for what it means for Texas to take on one of the biggest health issues. And now Texas will be taking on dementia also. So it's a proud moment, I think, for Texas, but I want to make sure that you guys all know how important it is, your leadership and what that has meant.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 6, the Chief Compliance Officer Report and Compliance Certification. The Chair recognizes Mr. Burgess to present the Chief Compliance Officer's report.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings, Oversight Committee members. I will pass this over to Mr. Nance, and we're behind tab 3 in your booklet, and I'll follow up after his report.
Good morning, members. It's been a very active quarter, so I will just touch on a few highlighted areas for you. Related to our financial status reports, this past quarter, our compliance specialists performed 605 second level reviews, with needing only 15% of those needed resubmission due to any sort of insufficient information or inaccurate information from the grantee. We also performed 10 enhanced desk reviews as well as 12 on-site reviews this past quarter. We're working with several of those grantees to clear up any of those findings that were addressed in those reports. Turning to our match expenditure reviews, as you know, we perform a 100% review of all of our product development grantees' match required expenses. This past quarter, we completed 5 of those annual match expenditure reviews. To summarize this past year already, we have reviewed a little over $39 million in expenditure reviews. So far, the total unallowable expenses only total little over $2,100. So just phenomenal there. The reasons for those unallowable match consist of reimbursements that were previously already submitted for reimbursement on the financial status reports, and there were a few just general unallowable expenses. And lastly, training. This past March, we completed our first of a series of our annual compliance trainings. As you know, we have one of those trainings for each of the different program areas, academic, product development, and prevention. That was held, and we had 259 of our grantee staff attend that training. We've also, this past quarter, completed 4 new grantee trainings for Texas Biomedical Research Institute, Curve Biosciences, Adaptive Therapeutics, and Ericion, Inc. And lastly, we had 1 new authorized signing official training for UTMB Galveston. That completes our report. I'll pause for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nance.
I do want to comment really quickly, besides that riveting update that we just gave you. Back to the match expense review, I mentioned this in our audit subcommittee, reviewing, over $39 million and only, having about $2,000 of disallowance. We're really looking at, is this the best use of our time and resources? We believe that significant decrease in disallowances over the last few years is a result of technical assistance we provided to grantees, trainings, and we think we've done a good job. So we're looking at how do we maybe tier this and at a different structure. Maybe a new grantee gets 100%, and if you didn't have any disallowances, maybe you get a sampling the next year. So we want to take a look at that. The only other thing that I wanted to comment is I had a moment of nostalgia. Yesterday marked 10 years since I met some of you on the board, and I started 10 years ago in June of 2015. Dr. Rice, you were the chair. Dr. Rosenfeld, you were there, and to your left, Dr. Rice, I went back and watched the OC video. Just had tissue and everything, and then to your left was this spry 10-year younger Mr. Montgomery, and it was mainly verklempt. But I want to say thank you for the 10 years, the memories, the support of the compliance program, and a few good laughs we've had along the way, and hopefully we'll have many more in the future. So thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Burgess? We'll move forward to the compliance certification.
You'll find the compliance certification in your proposed grant award booklet, and that begins on page 135. This memo was made available to you in the OC portal. Thank you for completing the portal timely. I believe in 10 years, this is the first time I didn't have to send out a reminder to anyone. And so kudos to that. You all completed it by last Friday, and that was great. And so as part of our certification, we track approval of the RFA all the way through presentation of the awards or the applications through the PIC meeting. I attended the PIC meeting as well and confirmed that process followed CPRIT's administrative rules. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I confirm that the applications for your consideration today followed CPRIT's administrative rules, and certify those for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Turning to the certification of the award slates that we will consider later today, Mr. Burgess provided the written report certifying that the proposed awards and review process complied with CPRIT statute and administrative rules. For the record, are there any questions for Mr. Burgess or Mr. Nance? Well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now move to item 7, which is the Chief Scientific Officer report. This will be found behind tab 4 in your meeting book. The chair now recognizes Dr. LeBeau to provide the academic research program update. She will also introduce the Program Integration Committee's grant award recommendations and the fiscal year 2026 requests for applications. Dr. LeBeau. Good morning.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. And I'll just remind you, as the chair pointed out, the academic research update is behind tab 4 in your meeting book. I'm delighted to present the Program Integration Committee recommendations for FY25 review cycle 2 and FY25 recruitment cycles 25.4, 0.5, and 0.6. And these slates include 47 awards from 8 grant mechanisms. And these are shown in the first slide. There's a total of 47 awards requesting $69.7 million. And I'll just emphasize that these include 3 TREC RFAs, 2 of which are new RFAs that were developed and offered for the first time this year, developed with support from our Geographic Diversity Advisory Committee, and they support investigator-initiated research and core facilities at our TREC-eligible institutions. The next slide shows the program priorities that are addressed by these grants. And I'm pleased to say that there are 8 of our program priorities that are addressed. So in addition to some of our key signature priorities such as recruitment and investing in a broad range of innovative investigator-initiated research projects, you'll see that there is a very nice distribution of support requested for our other priorities. If we move to the next slide, I'll just begin our discussion of the individual slates. The first slate is the core facility slate, and there were 19 grants received and 11 were recommended for funding. And they're shown in this slide. And then if you move to the next slide, please. There are 3 renewal cores and 8 new cores that are recommended. And one of the things that we emphasized in preparing the RFA this year was increased emphasis on cores that served multiple institutions across Texas and cores that supported the TREC eligible institutions. Importantly, there are 4 cores that are supporting drug discovery, which is an important goal for CPRIT. And an interesting core that you see in the top line there, number 6, that supports research involving extracellular vesicles. This is a very unique core. It's the first of its kind in Texas, and will provide new opportunities for investigators in Texas to study this important cellular phenomenon that is involved in many stages of cancer development, progression, and treatment response. If we go to the next slide, our next slide shows the PIC recommendations for the high impact, high risk research awards. And there were, I think, 96 grants that were received, and 17 were recommended for funding. And I'll just leave this on for a second, but ask you to just kind of go through the next 2 slides. If you can go to the next slide. I think that this is a very nice slate of grants that encompasses the continuum of cancer research. There are a number of grants, you'll notice, that are interested in focusing on developing new therapies. There are grants that are focusing on diagnostic techniques. And I think there's 1 or 2 grants that are looking at prevention, cancer prevention. If we go to the last slide, I think the last group is on that slide. All right, if we go to the next slide, which is table 5, and the description of these awards are on pages 15 through 17 of your proposed grant award booklet. There are 3 grants that are recommended in the early clinical investigator slate, and these are shown here. This is an important award that provides protected time and opportunities for early stage investigators to focus on gaining additional training and developing their network to develop as clinical investigators in patient-oriented research, including clinical trials. Our next slate is shown in table 6 on the next slide, and this is the, we'll start our TREC RFAs, and this is a core facility support award for TREC eligible institution. And the Program Integration Committee has recommended 1 award focusing on single cell genomics. The next slide shows the TREC Advancing Innovative Individual Research Awards. And the Program Innovation Committee has recommended 1 award that is focusing on small molecule drug conjugates that target the prostate-specific membrane antigen. The last TREC RFA is shown in the last slide, and it shows the Trek Pilot Study Awards. And there were 3 awards that were recommended for support that are shown in this slide. Now that concludes the 25.2 research awards. Before I move on to describe the recruitment nominees, are there any questions that
I
I
have
can
one,
address?
Margo. On that Trek Award to Baylor, I didn't know Baylor was a Trek recipient.
Baylor University in Waco, not Baylor College of Medicine.
Yeah, but I didn't know that they had received any Trek dollars at all.
This may be their first.
I thought there were only 5 that had received Trek.
Oh, there are 5 institutions that had received the large institutional award that covers recruitment, career development, pilot funding. So that's the broad institutional award. This is a smaller research award to the individual investigator.
I thought that the only institutions who could receive any Trek-related grants were those who had received the primary Trek.
No, there are 7 institutions that are Trek eligible. 5 of those 7 have the large
Right.
Trek institutional grants, but the other 2 are also still eligible to apply
Okay.
for all of the Trek RFAs.
Question?
Dr. Rosenfeld, sorry.
I have a question about one of the first slides where you showed how the grants match up with the Oversight Committee's priorities. And I was thinking that there's a lot of work in the cancer field looking at early onset cancers. A lot of that has been in the area of hepatocellular cancer, but also prostate and a few others where cancers you think of as occurring in old people are now occurring in folks 30 years old. And it's been in headlines, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. And I was just wondering if you could opine on whether the Oversight Committee should think of adding young onset cancers as a priority.
That's a really good question. And you're right that it has received a great deal of attention. And I'm really pleased that at the most recent AACR cancer research meeting, there were a number of talks that were beginning to tease out some of the environmental and social determinants and lifestyle factors that may be affecting the early onset. You'll recall that we did 2 years ago initiate an investigator-initiated research award for early onset cancer. So we do have that as one of our award mechanisms. But I think that's an excellent point, that there is an opportunity to focus more on that and really make Texas a key preeminent contributor to understanding this critical problem.
Yeah, I got to correct myself. I said hepatocellular cancer, but I meant colorectal cancer.
Sure, I get it.
And so,
Breast and colorectal are receiving a lot of attention.
but in practice, there is a thing like colorectal cancer you would have never thought of in someone 30 years old.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming a regular occurrence. And of course, one of the issues as far as prevention goes, we don't screen that age group for colorectal cancer.
Right.
And so a lot of young people who come with colorectal cancer have very advanced disease because they weren't being screened. So
Right.
it not only affects treatment, but our prevention arm.
Absolutely. And this is in part the rationale for the difference in recommendations between the American Cancer Society and the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. There's 5-year age gap in the recommendation start time for colorectal cancer because the ACS is concerned about the early onset cancers. And they're even considering, they're moving towards a more of a model where they have a living kind of a constant review of the guidelines and changing them in real time as opposed to just changing them every 5 years or evaluating them every 5 years, but changing them in real time as needed based on the data because they're so concerned about the data that's coming out for the incidence of cancer in young adults and feeling that the guidelines may need to be adjusted.
Thank you.
Agree 100%, Dr. Rosenfeld. Thank you for that comment. Dr. Rice?
I'm just going to echo for a brief moment that same point, just to say that it's interesting and, early cancer onset, is already deeply studied. People are working in that area. Prevention obviously kind of rolls into the idea of early onset mechanistically, but if we adopted one of our priorities to be this arena, it seems like it gravitationally pulls us towards more dedication into that early onset or mechanistic cellular mechanisms of what's going on at the very earliest moments. And so I think I'm just seconding the motion that focusing on early onset helps us really do something that we may be able to do better. Not that we're not doing it, but it's gravitationally pulling us towards that earliest transition from normal to not normal.
And there may be things that we could do to really promote research within the state. I know that tissue banks are a big issue and having the tissue available. So beginning a database and tissue banks and centralized resources may be a priority for this type of research.
Excellent comments. Thank you.
All right, so moving to our recruitment nominations. The first category is our recruitment of established investigators. And there were 5 nominations, and the Program Integration Committee is recommending 2 for your consideration. And these are shown on pages just 21 to 22 of your program awards book. The first is Dr. Jean Gauthier, who has been nominated by MD Anderson Cancer Center for an Established Investigator Award and appointment as a professor and chair of the Department of Epigenetics and Molecular Carcinogenesis. Dr. Gauthier is an internationally recognized leader whose groundbreaking research has really revolutionized our understanding of cell cycle regulation, DNA replication stress, and genome stability. He is proposing to continue his research studying how the 3D genome organization impacts genome integrity when DNA and transcription occur simultaneously on the same DNA strand. And the insights gleaned from these types of studies may pave the way for innovative cancer therapies that target genome vulnerabilities, promising more effective and precise treatments for patients. The second nominee is Dr. Andrew Feinberg, who is being nominated by Texas A&M University and appointment as a professor in the Department of Cell Biology and Genetics. Dr. Feinberg is an internationally renowned physician scientist. He's made numerous paradigm-shifting and impactful discoveries. For example, Dr. Feinberg is considered the founder of the field of cancer epigenetics because it was he and his colleagues who first discovered that cancer cells have altered DNA methylation and that this impacts gene expression. And that was in the early 1980s. He is now proposing to address the role of epigenetic changes in early pancreatic cancer development and its role in increasing susceptibility to a variety of cancers. And to do this, he will use some very powerful mouse models and then translate his findings to study them in human cancers. A major goal of his work is to use these insights that come from these studies to develop new ways to intervene at both early and late stages of cancer development. And I'll just keep going if that's okay. All right. So we'll move to our nominees for recruitment of first-time tenure-track faculty members. And there were 19 nominees, and I will describe 9 investigators that are recommended by the PIC. The first is, I think you go back one slide. Can you go forward? Uh-oh. We seem to be missing a slide. Could we go forward and just, whoops. Well, I'm afraid we're missing a slide, but I will go ahead and describe Dr. Jones. Dr. Matthew Jones is being nominated for a first-time tenure-track faculty member and appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Systems Biology. Dr. Jones has a powerful combination of interdisciplinary training in computer science, technology development, and experimental biology. During his postdoctoral fellowship, he focused on an unusual phenomenon, specifically extrachromosomal DNA. And these are circular, very small pieces of circular DNA that are within the nucleus, but extrachromosomal. And they are a mechanism by which cells amplify oncogenes and are often contained in the most aggressive tumors, and they can influence tumor evolution, development, and progression. So he has developed very powerful computational tools for analyzing extrachromosomal DNA and detecting extrachromosomal DNA in genomic sequences where it had previously been missed by the algorithms that were being used formerly. And for this work, he's been awarded a highly competitive NCI Pathways to Independence Award, the K99 R00. When he comes to Texas, he is proposing to study how the underlying genetics of a tumor, in this case oncogenes amplified on the extrachromosomal DNA, how it contributes to the spatial orientation of tumors. And his goal is to improve our ability to predict tumor progression and to develop new strategies. Our next candidate is Dr. Benjamin Schrank, who has been nominated by the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center for an appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Radiation Oncology. Dr. Schrank is a very talented physician scientist who's already made a number of important scientific discoveries. And interestingly, he also studies extrachromosomal DNA. And he has been awarded a prestigious NCI K08 grant award. Dr. Schrank's overall goal is to transform extrachromosomal DNA into a novel target for immunotherapy, and in this way to transform cancer treatment approaches in colorectal cancer. To this end, he's proposing to use antibody-drug conjugate that he's developed to neutralize the defensive don't eat me or CD47 signal that's expressed on tumor cells. And once the tumor cell has been engulfed by macrophages, the second function of this antibody-drug conjugate will be to cause the release of the extrachromosomal DNA that's caught up in the phagolysosomes of the macrophages that have engulfed the tumor cells. And once the DNA is released into the cytoplasm, where the immune sensors can detect it, that can then amount an immune response against the tumor. This work aims to develop next generation treatment for colorectal cancer and other hard to treat malignancies that rely on oncogene amplification for their growth and survival. The next two candidates are shown then on this slide. And the first is Dr. Naladri Sinha, who's been nominated by Baylor College of Medicine for an appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology. Dr. Sinha has expertise in cancer biology with a major focus on mRNA translation and protein synthesis. And he is the recipient of a prestigious NIH Pathway to Independence K99 award. Now, I think we've talked in this meeting before about how cancer cells ramp up their metabolism and their protein synthesis to support their rapid growth. And Dr. Sinha is proposing to determine how cancer cells can reprogram the normal quality control systems that cells have and stress response pathways to sustain the elevated protein synthesis that's required for their growth. And he will focus on highly proliferative and aggressive MYC-driven tumors. These studies are very innovative and have a high potential to uncover mechanisms that drive tumor growth and to identify therapeutic vulnerabilities. Our next candidate is Dr. Luigi Pirelli, who is being proposed by MD Anderson for an assistant professor appointment in the Department of Cancer Biology. And Dr. Pirelli is an outstanding clinical and basic researcher who studies tissue specificity of driver events in cancer predisposition syndromes. Dr. Pirelli hypothesizes that there are molecular mutations in genes that there are molecular changes other than mutations in genes that include things like the tissue-specific cell states and the epigenetic programs that are strong predictors of the emergence of disease, and that these can actually be used as molecular biomarkers for the emergence of the disease, and they can be used to follow up patients and predict and for early detection. And he has developed a research program to address the tissue specificity of these driver events. And he will focus on specifically on von Hippel-Lindau syndrome and kidney cancer. And when I say tissue specificity, he's focusing on the question of why, for example, do patients who are carry the von Hippel-Lindau familial mutations, why are they predisposed to kidney cancer and not other types of cancer? This research plan will allow him to collect unbiased data on the molecular mechanisms of normal to cancer transformation that may inform therapeutic options and improve patients' long-term outcomes. Our next candidate is Dr. Lena Ahn, who is being proposed for an assistant professor appointment in the Department of Biosciences at Rice University. Dr. Ahn is an exceptional synthetic and computational biologist, and her area of research is very interdisciplinary and cutting edge, and that is using AI deep learning tools for protein design, and then combined with bench chemistry expertise to design novel proteins that can detect and respond to tumor-specific biochemical cues. She now plans to develop sensors, protein sensors, to map altered metabolites and post-translational protein modifications in tumors to predict cancer progression. These efforts will yield new computational tools and synthetic proteins that can be rapidly repurposed to enable earlier diagnosis and precision therapeutic interventions for a variety of cancers. Our next candidate is Dr. Alyssa Greenwald, who is nominated by MD Anderson Cancer Center for an assistant professor position in the Department of Systems Biology. Dr. Greenwald is an exceptionally well-trained scientist with expertise in experimental biology, genomics technologies, and data science. Dr. Greenwald has previously shown that cancer cell states in glioblastoma had particular and predictable spatial patterns and locations that were based upon the oxygen levels in the tissue. And her proposed research will decipher the role of oxygen gradients in modulating tumor organization, heterogeneity and treatment response in glioblastoma and other tumors that are hypoxic. She also wants to investigate the impact of therapies that actually remodel the vasculature and alter the oxygen levels to further understand the impact of these angiogenesis drugs and whether they'll be effective both as monotherapies and in combination with immunotherapy. This work has the high potential for translation to the clinic to improve the diagnosis and treatment for cancer patients with glioblastoma and other forms of tumors that are typically hypoxic. Our next candidate is Dr. Min-Ki Han, who is being nominated by MD Anderson Cancer Center for an appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Cancer Systems Imaging. And she is a very highly talented investigator who maps metabolic signatures and uses high-resolution multi-scale imaging analytics. Her long-term goals are to uncover how cellular organelles function both individually and then interact together to support tumor growth. So she proposes to integrate multimodal imaging, metabolic profiling, and AI approaches to map metabolic reprogramming over time and space in tumors. And her hope is that by identifying and targeting specific metabolic weaknesses of tumors, such as their reliance on a single type of nutrient, this type of work could lead to the development of novel therapies. Our next candidate is Dr. Zun Sun, who is proposed by the University of Texas Medical Branch for an appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Dr. Sun is a rising star among scientists who are exploring the conformational dynamics of proteins in cancer biology. And he focuses on a very critical tumor suppressor gene, the p53 tumor suppressor gene, and studies how changes in its conformation results in dynamic switches in its function. And he proposes to study molecular mechanisms for the p53 protein and how it responds to DNA damage in hepatocellular cancer. And he will focus on how p53 binds to one of its key target genes, the p21 gene, and then activates expression of the p21 protein to halt cell cycle in response to DNA damage. The reason that this is important is because by elucidating how p53 binds and interfaces with other proteins to perform key functions to allow the cell to stop dividing and repair DNA damage may provide key insights to guide the development of small molecule therapeutics to different proteins that are involved in this process as therapeutic approaches for hepatocellular cancer. And our last candidate is Dr. Xijuan Liu, who is being proposed by the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center for appointment as an assistant professor in the Department of Neuroscience. And she has an interesting and outstanding background in molecular biology, cell biology, genomics, and computational biology. And the very unique aspect of her work is that she's pioneered the development of a new model organism, the mouse lemur, which is a very tiny primate, only about 2.5 inches large, for the study of cancer. And she will use the mouse lemur as a unique model to study hepatocellular cancer. And the mouse lemur shares a number of immune genes called primate selective genes that are conserved with humans, but they're absent in mouse models. And she'll characterize the regulation of about 100 primate selective immune genes in both the human and lemur hepatocellular carcinoma models. And the goal here is to establish a more human-like platform for studying hepatocellular cancer progression, immune regulation, and preclinical testing. The proposed research will provide insights into primate-specific cancer immunology mechanisms and advanced immunotherapy strategies targeting these pathways. And importantly, it's also applicable to other cancer types. So that completes the discussion of the recruitment slate. I am happy to address any questions you have.
We have any questions for the academic research recruitment slate? Dr. Hernandez, yes.
Nice presentation, Doc. On page 24, 25.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, page 24 and 25 of our booklet. There's
Okay,
2 MD Anderson awards for recruitment. And at the top, page 24 at the bottom of 25.
Yeah.
And I just wanted clarification. So they're already there at these organizations, MD Anderson. They're already present there working. So they're getting promoted in the organization. Is that what we're doing?
yes. CPRIT allows the recruitment or nomination of candidates from within an organization, but they have to be moving to a different department.
Okay. So that under our definitions of recruitment.
It's under our definition, yes. It doesn't happen all that often, but we do see it occasionally.
Yes, ma'am. It's $4 million to move from one lab to another.
Right. That the goal is to ensure that they become independent faculty members, and that's why we require that they have a different academic appointment in a different department than they were previously located as a trainee.
And they can't do it themselves because why can't they pay it themselves? It's a transfer.
I'm sorry,
Why can't they pay it themselves? It's a transfer is what it is. So why can't these organizations pay the salary themselves?
Well, I think the concept would be that these individuals, for them to nominate them and us to consider them, these individuals have to have a stellar record, have to be bringing stellar skills, and
Sure.
they really have to be competitive with all of the other candidates that are being proposed from outside within the United
Right.
States or elsewhere.
Yes, ma'am.
So the idea is that these are real rising stars,
I don't
and
question
that it's
their-
important to keep them. They bring skills that are important
I
to
don't
keep.
question their resumes. I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning. From my perspective, I thought we were bringing people from other parts of the state or organizations or Scripps or California or wherever to enrich us in the state of Texas, not transfer, but that's fine. I just want a clarification on it. Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Rice?
I was just going to add a comment to that for a brief moment if I could, and then provide a bit of a perspective comment as well. And I was just going to say that the way I think about those is that maybe those are recruitment opportunities that for people that are somewhat, superstar-ish, who otherwise are likely to go someplace else outside of Texas. And so it's a mechanism to help us self-recruit that which will otherwise inevitably go to a sort of a major institution somewhere else. And so that's how I've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to just provide a bit of a perspective for 10 seconds to our group, the Oversight Committee, to talk about what we just heard. And Dr. LeBeau, thank you so much for your service throughout your tenure, but never better than today to highlight these foundational things that are going on. So I just want to mention briefly, we heard about the suggestion of the importance of a biobank to think about and organize a new kind of way to study early cancer across the state. We heard about, I'm going to just mention 4 things. We heard about non-genetic drivers of cancer and the ability to predict those things. And so we're entering into a new kind of water, maybe where there could be a focus, which again, let me say that again, non-genetic drivers of cancer progression. So we think about genes are the whole story. Genes may not be the whole story is the point I want to make. The third example was post-translational cancer progression. Post-translational means after the DNA got transcribed, translated into a protein, other stuff happens. Once again, not a gene impact directly, but something else going on in a cell. Foundationally, something that, again, I think the team needs to think about. The next to last one was oxygen gradients. Again, emergent mechanisms in a tumor. You don't know from one tumor to another what the oxygen gradient might be in that person. Maybe one person has COPD and has a different oxygen gradient than another person who doesn't have COPD, emphysema type things. So those are things that drive, quote, emergent mechanisms or mechanisms that you're gonna, if you do a genotyping, you're not going to understand why that patient is reacting that way because they've got something else going on that drives an oxygen gradient, which has nothing to do with, directly that. And the nutrient point also kind of maybe one person's nutrition or nutrient of some protein drives the propensity for an outcome or whether or not a tumor grows more. So I'm just trying to make the point that this is all interesting because, this perspective of non-genetic drivers, again, obviously genes are drivers as well, but I think that takes us to a new space of interest and focus that, it's not like the scientific community is not aware of this. Of course they are, but I think that I wanted to just point out that these are multiple examples of these mechanisms which are important, which might help us think about how we frame RFAs or how we try to think about the problem of cancer. And a little bit, not to just be hyping, but part of the science of this artificial intelligence thing we talk about is to produce mechanistic models that can wonder about, tumors and oxygen gradients and nutrition and post-translational and can model that. Again, we're not talking about large language models that are just going to, provide some comment on something. But so that's part of the path and the importance, I think, of the AI. And let me finish by saying that I think sometimes when we have clinical trials and we have a very great prospect on a new drug or a new treatment, and we get a clinical trial and it helps 12% of people get cured and 19% of people get something, and then most of people don't benefit or whatever, some of that whole thing is going to relate to emergent mechanisms that we're now just describing that are the reasons we have, subgroups in clinical trials that otherwise we can't figure out why they didn't have success in the treatment. And so I think that's part of the path that we're on here. And these things that we've heard today are very powerful. I think, hints to us that this is a path that we're going to be going over. And this is the importance of how cancer gets transformed from a deadly disease to a chronic disease to a curable disease over the next 20 years. And really this investment of CPRIT is a long-term payoff for that whole scientific advancement that we're going to get through. Again, I apologize for using so many minutes, but I wanted to say that to the group.
Well, I appreciate your comments, Dr. Rice, and very astute comments they were. And I think that also segues into Dr. Rosenfeld's earlier comment about early onset cancers and why. And so some of these non-genetic drivers may be part of that as well. So in any event, thank you very much. Any other comments for Dr. LeBeau on the grant award slate?
One quick question.
Dr. Rosenfeld.
I did some sophisticated math and came up with a geographic diversity question. And that is on the tenure track, folks. 8 approvals are from Houston and 1's from Dallas. And none are from the west side of 35. And I was just wondering, is that just a fluke of this cycle, or I just thought it was a non-random distribution of folks in Houston. I was just wondering if you have any comments about it.
I think it's just a function of the nominees and where they came from this cycle. There's always a little bit of drift from cycle to cycle, and in which institutions are ramping up their recruiting and heavily recruiting and submit a lot of applications. So, yeah.
Very good. Dr. LeBeau, would you like to present the fiscal year 2026 request for application?
Yes. Could we go to slide 18? Great. Okay, so our first slate of RFAs is the recruitment panels that you're very familiar with, so I won't belabor it. We're proposing our signature program, the recruitment of established investigators, rising stars, and first-time tenure track members. They are unchanged from previous years. Our next slate is for cycle FY 26.2, and we are proposing our standard core facility support awards and we are proposing to limit it to competitive renewals. In part, this is pragmatic because we have a number of cores that were funded about 5 years ago that are eligible and for renewal. It's both to provide them the opportunity to come in for renewal as well as to manage our portfolio. The second is the high impact, high risk research awards that you're familiar with, which are for innovative projects for studies that look at very promising topics that are not yet sufficiently mature to compete successfully for more conventional funding, but it allows the investigators to gain additional results to apply successfully to CPRIT or other agencies for larger peer-reviewed funding grants. The next cycle are a new award that we have developed in collaboration with the Advisory Committee on Childhood Cancers. And this is an RFA that came out of a retreat that was held last fall, the researchers roundup. And it focuses on multi-investigator research awards for childhood or adolescent and young adult cancer, and specifically focuses on cancer survivorship. The next award is a award that we offer periodically, and this is a research training award to enable the training of individuals, predoctoral trainees, postdoctoral trainees, or clinical fellows to promote and train the next generation of cancer investigators and leaders in cancer research. And we are, again, giving the number of awards that are currently funded, we are proposing to allow competitive renewals to be submitted for this award. The next slide proposes 2 new awards, and these 2 RFAs have been developed in collaboration with our Clinical Trials Advisory Committee. And the goal here is to help establish, the first is to help establish clinical trial capacity in rural and underserved communities by providing seed funding to help build the essential infrastructure, staffing, and operational support to participate in clinical trials. The second is a companion RFA, the idea being that not only do you need to build the infrastructure, you need to have the personnel, the appropriate physicians and personnel to conduct clinical trials. And this award would support workforce development by recruitment of clinical investigators and trialists in rural and underserved communities to address the significant shortage of clinical trials offered in these areas. And individuals could be recruited at the level of assistant, associate, or professor levels. So that concludes the new slate of the slate of RFAs for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. LeBeau. I would like to make a comment about the last 2 awards, these new mechanisms, which I think are fantastic. Our usual suspects are well aware of our processes. These targets may not be. So what can we do to make sure that the word is there for these people that we want to be considered?
Yes, that is exactly a point that I raised with the committee recently. And I think it's an excellent point. One thing that we can do is to hold webinars, and we can reach out and try to reach out to as many community practices. We can work with groups like Texas Oncology to help us identify practices that we could reach out to. These are the TREC eligible institutions are eligible for these awards as well. And I think they're good candidates for this type of award. But we are anxious to hear any ideas that you might have.
Good. Well, I think we'll have an ongoing discussion, but this is going to be very interesting, I think, to see, who we can recruit the interest in that
Right.
would be eligible for these awards. So,
And,
thank you.
and we don't expect to get a huge number
Sure.
of grants. It's probably more likely to be between 5 and 10.
Right.
But I think that that would actually be a success
Absolutely.
and allow us to pilot it and
Yeah.
evaluate its success.
Agree. Very exciting. Any other questions? Mr. Margot?
We developed before you came, Michelle, the Trek grants, the concept of Trek grants by going out and visiting institutions away from the I-35 corridor, as Craig referenced. We went to El Paso. I think there was some conversation in Lubbock.
That's right.
We need to do those things. And your successor needs to do those things.
Mhm.
And people did not know and until we went out and made those presentations, got the feedback from them. What do you need? What do you know? What do you, and they also had to be persuasive because there was some great doubt, as I recall, of whether this should continue, whether we should do those. And so I think we're going to have to do dog and pony shows outside, and that's going to have to be part of the work this next year to make sure these institutions know, whether it be San Angelo or Lubbock or El Paso or the Valley or wherever, it's going to have to go out there and call roundtable discussions and have those institutions and those community organizations get together and say, here's what's out here. So understand.
I think that's a good point. And I neglected to say that these exact same two ideas were also proposed by the Geographic Diversity Advisory Committee for the Trek, who are proposing mechanisms for the Trek eligible institutions. So we have a good match between those two committees.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I think
Dr.
there's
Hernandez.
one last slide to just tell you what's happened with cycle 26.1, which closed earlier this month. Many of us had predicted that given everything that's going on in the country with research funding, that we might receive a larger number of grants, and that was indeed the case. This is a indication of the awards that we received. We received 345 awards last year, and this year we received 515, so significantly more. So I think it's a indication of the importance of CPRIT funding to research in Texas and the role that it plays in supporting research and the academic institutions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Dr. Hernandez had a question. Thank
I
you.
did. First of all, congratulations on the previous slide and our illustrious leader, our Madam CEO. Great job. It's you're coming out with a bang. It looks like it's really going to be a very great 2 years. And I'm just delighted the fact that we're moving finally the needle. And that's what we all want in this committee. We want every Texan taken care of and every region to have opportunity. And you ladies and your staff, of course, are doing that. So I'm very proud of you guys doing it. And I just can't tell you how excited I am. And to answer the question, how we can make this even better, is there any way we could make them Trek grants, the last two that the chairman was referring to? Why not just categorize them as Trek? Would that be a problem for you guys to do? Label them as Trek?
Oh, we did talk about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Moore and I did discuss that, so we can certainly consider that. My only concern there is that we have a definition for Trek grants, and
Yes.
it's limited to academic institutions,
Oh.
whereas we want these awards to be smaller community practices or larger hospital-based community practices to be eligible
Okay.
as well.
Thank you for clarification. As long as it gets out there,
Yeah.
you answered my question. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
I'll add one response to Dr. Hernandez's point. And for all of you Oversight Committee members, Dr. LeBeau emphasized it quite often, but I do want to say so many of these recommendations came from the advisory committees, and you've heard the presentations that they make. And I am very proud of how interactive and how much benefit we get from these advisory committees. I'm sure there's a number somewhere of the number of advisory committees that, serve state agencies, and they must total in the thousands. But you have really made use of the advisory committees and have then enacted recommendations that they have made.
Very good. Dr. LeBeau,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Excellent presentation. Okay, we are going to
We'll do
move
it.
forward. Mr. Burgess has certified compliance for the Academic Research Award process. It's my understanding that Dr. Rosenfeld has reported a conflict of interest with RP 250601. Are there any other conflicts of interest that have not previously been reported? Members, you have a list of the applications and grant amounts recommended by the PIC for the Academic Research Grant Awards. We will approve the PIC's recommendation if 2/3 of the Oversight Committee members present and voting agree. There are 8 Academic Research Award slates constituting 47 grant recommendations. We will take a separate vote on RP 250601. For the remaining 46 recommendations, rather than taking a separate vote on each grant mechanism, I will ask for a vote to approve all the slates. If a member wants to consider one or more award recommendations separately from the vote on all the slates, please make a motion to do so now. First, we will consider RP 250601. I will entertain a motion to approve the PIC's award recommendation for RP 250601.
So moved.
Dr. Rosenfeld will not vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, the motion carries. I will note for the record that Dr. Rosenfeld did not vote on this recommendation. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the PIC's remaining 46 recommendations for the following Academic Research Grant Award mechanisms: Core Facility Support Awards, Early Clinical Investigator Awards, High Impact, High Risk Research Awards, TREC Advancing Innovative Individual Research Awards at TREC eligible institutions, TREC Core Facility Support Awards, TREC Pilot Study Award, Recruitment of Established Investigators, and Recruitment of First-Time Tenure-Track Faculty Members.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, the motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion delegating contract negotiation authority to the CEO and CPRIT staff and to authorize the CEO to sign the contracts on behalf of CPRIT.
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Finally, to finish our action items for the academic research program, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 academic research requests for applications as presented by Dr. LeBeau.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Let's move on to item number 8, which is the Chief Prevention Officer Report. The chair recognizes Ms. Magid to provide the prevention program update and present the PIC's Prevention Award recommendations. Good morning.
Good morning, members. Thank you so much. I will present the brief program update, and then I've asked Carlton Allen to prepare the recommendations for the prevention awards for this cycle. This is a very brief update. You could see that it's just a summary of the cycle that we're in now. And then going forward, review cycle 26.1, we have the 3 RFAs out that are our standard RFAs: screening and prevention and the dissemination. And those applications will be due in June. And then will be presented to the Oversight Committee in November. And there's a list of other activities that the program has been involved in. And I'd like to just highlight the fact that Carlton is making CPRIT come on to the national scene by his involvement in all of the cancer roundtables that are out there. There are many, and they're by cancer type. And he's been asked to serve on a meeting planning committee, which is a step toward being part of the actual committee of the roundtable. So thank you for your hard work in highlighting CPRIT all across the nation and sometimes internationally. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Kristen for her kind words, and it's been my honor and privilege to serve Texans over the last 15 years, and my pleasure to work with each of you to provide very many badly needed prevention, education, navigation, and clinical services to underserved Texans. So thank you very much. And now I'll pass it on to Carlton for the awards.
Thank you, Ramona. And I'll present the PICS recommendations for the 6 awards for the fiscal year 2025 cycle 2. There's a total of 6 awards being recommended, totaling $12.974 million, 4 from the cancer screening and early detection slate, and 2 from the primary prevention of cancer slate. All 6 of these awards address the program priorities of the prevention program. And now, if it's all right, I'll go through all 6 of these awards, but you can see here the geographical area that these 6 awards cover throughout the state of Texas and the counties that individual or these projects will be serving. And so to start, we have PP 250052, the Breast Cancer Education Screening Navigation Program in West and South Texas, or the BEST 4 program from Dr. Jennifer Malaku. This is from Texas Tech University Health Science Center at El Paso. This program is a maintenance expansion program. It continues the successful BEST program, which is a culturally tailored and multi-level, multi-component intervention project focusing on addressing the known barriers of breast cancer screening, diagnosis, and treatment in the area. This program covers over 30 counties in West and South Texas, and it includes research-tested and evidence-based outreach and engagement, education, clinical services delivery, patient navigation, and dissemination. This program partners with community organizations and faith groups, schools and healthcare providers, and are working with new partners who will facilitate the recruitment, education, and navigation to reduce these barriers. They'll also be working to build stronger connections with local service organizations such as food banks, housing authorities, transportation services to help build their referral network. Next, we have PP 250053, the Southwest Coalition for Colorectal Cancer Screening, or the Success 3 program. This is also from Dr. Jennifer Malaku from Texas Tech University Health Science Center at El Paso, another maintenance expansion program. This program is a population-based screening program to incorporate community-based and healthcare system-based approaches to address barriers to reduce colorectal cancer disparities. They have very similar processes that the previous program that I described. This program, I'll just touch on 2 additional points that are of note. This program covers over 40 counties in East Texas, or excuse me, 40 counties in Texas, so in that South region and in that West region. And this program was also nationally recognized by the American Cancer Society. Their colorectal cancer roundtable a couple years ago as being the highly successful program that it is, and they were recognized for the amount of screenings that they do in the region and their success rate for follow-up. Next, we have PP 250064. This is another maintenance expansion grant, so it's the continuation and expansion of Texas A&M's interdisciplinary cancer prevention program for rural and medically underserved women, from Dr. Anna Bleichart from Texas A&M University Health Science Center. This program is their C-STEP program, and it provides education, navigation, and comprehensive cancer screening and diagnostic services for low-income, rural, medically underserved women in 25 counties. And they're going to be expanding their cancer prevention training to include training for family physicians, residents, nursing students, nurse practitioner students, and CHWs, or community health workers. This program is focusing on breast cancer, cervical, colorectal, and liver screenings, and also HPV vaccinations. And they're going to expand their reach in some more rural counties, Bastrop, Colorado, Fayette, and Gonzales County, and working with local FQHCs, or federally qualified health centers, safety net clinics, faith-based clinics, to make sure that they're referring the woman to this program, and also be using rural mobile mammography to help address some of the barriers of transportation in these rural areas. And the last award for the CSD program is PP 250075. This is the Texas Southern University Breast Cancer Screening and Prevention Center from Dr. Veronica Ajawali from Texas Southern University. This is a breast cancer screening and diagnostic service evidence-based program that focuses on breast cancer awareness and education for community members, patient navigation and barrier reduction services, and focusing on uninsured or underinsured African American and other ethnic minority women living in medically underserved areas. They will be focusing their efforts in 9 counties, which is an expansion from their previous program. And so some of the new counties that they'll be expanding in: Galveston, Polk, Bazoria, and Trinity. They'll be working to also focusing on continuing education for community health workers, and also be using mobile mammography units from the Rose Breast Cancer Center, which is a very successful CPRIT grantee, and also TSU has a mobile health unit that they'll be incorporating into this project. Next, we have the 2 awards from our primary prevention of cancer. And so the first is PP 250072, the implementation of a multi-component community intervention to increase HPV vaccination among adolescents in Bexar County, from Dr. Erica Thompson from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. This project is a multi-component community-based intervention to increase HPV vaccination rates among adolescents in Bexar County. The project will incorporate and adopt the All for Them program, which is a very successful program, vaccination program, and they're going to be using evidence-based and culturally appropriate material and incorporating that into Bexar County community setting. They'll be using vaccination clinics that will be implemented through community-wide events and through after-school programs. And they'll also be developing a CHW training component that will be disseminated across CHWs throughout the state. And last, we have PP 250056, the expanding opportunities for HPV vaccination in medically underserved areas of East Texas, from Dr. Abby Burnson at the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston. This is another HPV-focused application with goals to reduce HPV-related cancers in East Texas by increasing HPV vaccination knowledge and vaccine uptake, and to reduce the risk of cervical cancer by increasing screening among eligible women. This program will be educating practicing physicians, residents, and healthcare students in the region, and will use comprehensive community outreach and engagement through health fairs, back to school events, and through social media. And they'll be partnering with medical societies in those areas, the Texas Society of Medical Assistants and the East Texas Area Health Education Center, or AHEC. And that ends my summary of the award. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Maggot or Mr. Allen? Okay. We'll move forward. Mr. Burgess has certified compliance for the prevention award process. It is my understanding that no oversight committee member reported a conflict of interest with any of the prevention applications we will consider today. Are there any conflicts of interest that have not yet been reported? Hearing none, members, you have the list of applications and grant amounts recommended by the PIC for the prevention grant awards. We will approve the PIC's recommendation if 2/3 of the oversight committee members present and voting agree. There are 2 prevention award slates constituting 6 grant recommendations. Rather than taking a separate vote on each grant mechanism, I will ask for a vote to approve both of the slates. If a member wants to consider one or more award recommendations separately and the vote on all the slates, please make a motion to do so now. I will entertain a motion to approve the PIC's 6 recommendations for the following prevention grant award mechanisms: cancer screening and early detection, and primary prevention of cancer.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of members present and voting, the motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion delegating contract negotiation authority to the CEO and CPRIT staff to authorize the CEO to sign the contracts on behalf of CPRIT.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Ms. Maggot, Mr. Allen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, I would like to point out that we will have a recognition and appreciation for Dr. LeBeau at the end of our meeting today. As Ms. Maggot will be with us for most of the summer, her appreciation and recognition will be at a later OC meeting. All right, moving on to item 9, the Chief Product Development Officer report. The chair recognizes Dr. Ken Smith to provide the Chief Product Development Officer's report and present the PIC's Product Development Award recommendations. Good morning, Dr. Smith.
Good morning. Thank you. Before we get started, I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed working with both Ramona and with Michelle over the last 3.5 years. I'm kind of a newbie at CPRIT, but it was good to work with them. So we appreciate what you've done, and I hope your next life is more enjoyable than this.
What?
Especially sitting here. I might have to look into this retirement thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, but thank you. So let's see what the first slide says.
Always a surprise.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so last we met, we were working on a different RFA. So CPRIT had always in the past got new companies. So every cycle was new companies. This cycle, we had about $10 million left over from the previous cycle, the 25-1. And so we tried something different this time. And so basically, we took the companies that currently had a grant with CPRIT. You know, it's still pending grant, not an older company where the grant was concluded. And so we decided to put an RFA out there where they could get additional money, no more than $3 million total. And if you were a seed, no more than 30% of what your seed value was. So that way we figured we could help companies that had proven that they, you know, made some successes, were moving along down the track, and perhaps either can accelerate their motion down the track or augment, like in a case where for clinical trials, maybe there's a new another cohort they could do, or, you know, the rules are always changing. And so maybe expand the number of patients that, you know, have a better data set. So in any event, 23 companies applied. We had 12 selected to do interviews. So in this interview process, it wasn't as extensive as what we did with new companies. We had an hour basically with the company, and we said, hey, what have you guys been doing? And what are you going to do with this money? And after that, we had the 12 companies. They were rank ordered. And at the end of the day, we used the money as far as it would go. And we got it to basically, it's going to be 7 companies now. And the 8th company was actually got about half of what their request was, but that's where it ran out. And then I'll make a note of one of the companies that's going to move into 2026-1. But you can see here how much was requested and the budgets. And really, at the end of the day, it's only going to be 10 million that we vote for. The other 3 million will be pushed in 26-1. I'll explain that in a second. Next slide, please. So this is the list of companies that, we're recommending funding for. The very first one, the one with the highest score, OncoResponse, CPRIT just did a deal with them, an equity deal with, there were 3 or 4 other partners who came in on an equity deal. They're about 2 years through their funding. So the first 2 years of funding will be covered under attachment D, which is kind of our standard 4X and royalties. But the third year, we took the first tranche of the third year and made an equity investment. Now, the second tranche of that third year will also be part of the equity investment if, in fact, they make the milestone. The milestone is a clinical milestone. They're going to have like 6 patients. The outcome of those 6 patients will indicate whether they're going to move forward or not. If they move forward, we'll get that other equity investment, and they'll get the $3 million from this round. But that won't happen until probably October of this year to see whether the milestone actually is accomplished or not. And so we basically rolled that into that. So the other 7 companies are the ones that basically we get funded in fiscal year 25. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so I'll quickly go through the companies and what they're doing and what they're going to use the money for. So OncoResponse is advancing OR502, which is humanized IgG1 monoclonal antibody targeting little RB2 on tumor-associated macrophages to reverse immune suppression in cancer. Initial CPRIT funding supported the dose escalation portion of the phase 1 clinicals, establishing preliminary safety and anti-tumor activity. The supplemental grant will expand OR502 development into additional solid tumor indications, both as monotherapy and in combination with PD-1 checkpoint inhibitors. Second company is Inform AI. Inform AI is advancing RAD-ONC AI, an AI-driven radiation therapy planning platform that automates the generation of personalized radiation dose plans. RAD-ONC AI uses patient imaging and clinician-defined targets to predict optimized 3D radiation dose distributions, dramatically reducing planning times from hours to minutes. The initial CPRIT funding supported development and prototype testing of the RAD-ONC AI system, demonstrating integration with clinical treatment planning systems and validating performance through early clinical studies. This supplemental request will have continued CPRIT support to expand RAD-ONC AI clinical validation, integrate the platform more broadly into clinical workflows, and enable real-world deployment. Alterum Therapeutics, third company, is developing 4A10, a monoclonal antibody targeting CD127 for the treatment of CD127 expressed hematological malignancies. Initial CPRIT funding supported manufacture, preclinical development, and early clinical preparation focused on relapsed refractory T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. 4A10 is designed to block IL-7 TSLP signaling and eliminate CD127 expressed cancer cells through antibody-dependent cellular toxicity and phagocytosis, which addresses a critical unmet need in aggressive blood cancers. The requested funding will enable expansion of the clinical program into a phase 2A study for patients with relapsed refractory B-ALL, building on encouraging clinical data and regulatory engagement to date. Continued CPRIT support will accelerate clinical validation and advance 4A10 towards broader development opportunities in CD127 expressed cancers. Instapath is developing a fluorescence-based imaging platform to improve rapid microscopic visualization of freshly excised pathology specimens. Their first product, Lucy, was launched for research in 2019, and their second product, Neo, a compact clinical-grade fresh tissue scanner, was cleared as a Class 1 medical device in 2024. Neo uses structured illumination microscopy principles to create digital pathology images without the need for time-consuming freezing or chemical preparations, supporting faster and easier interoperative assessments. The supplemental CPRIT funding will support the continued design, development, and validation of NEO platform through alpha, beta, and prototype production, quality, system maintenance, and pilot clinical evaluation. Rapamycin Holdings is developing eRAPA, an improved rapamycin formulation for FAP, a genetic disease leading to early colorectal cancer. With no approved therapies, the current FAP treatment relies on preventative surgery. Rapamycin inhibits the mTOR pathway and has been shown in preclinical studies to delay cancer formation. eRAPA improves rapamycin's bioavailability, enabling safer, lower dosing for long-term use while reducing toxicity. Through CPRIT support, rapamycin has advanced eRAP into phase 2A trials, achieving a 28% reduction in mean polyp burden at 6 months with durable benefits at 12 months. Most adverse events were mild to moderate. Based on these results, the FDA granted Fast Track designation in 2025. To strengthen the registration, the phase 3 trial was expanded to 168 patients and randomized 2-to-1 in favor of eRAPA in alignment with the FDA on trial modification. Adam Mines, the initial CPRIT funded project demonstrated successful production of high purity terbium-176 for cancer therapies, surpassing FDA standards. Transitioning from an academic research to a private facility, the team developed and validated a prototype system, achieving over 99.95% purity. The supplemental funding will enable scale-up and validate commercial production. Pranothoracic is developing the MeterCore device for minimally invasive excision of small lung nodules in early-stage lung cancers. With CPRIT support, Prana validated MeterCore's precision and safety in porcine models and achieved significant preclinical milestones, secured 510K pathway feedback from the FDA, expanding manufacturing into Texas, and confirmed manufacturing readiness for regulatory submissions. Supplemental CPRIT funding will enable Prana to expand the first-in-human study to 3 sites, expedite patient enrollment, and complete key regulatory milestones, ensuring timely FDA submission and accelerating commercialization. And finally, resilience. Resilience is expanding differentiated cell therapies in Texas. Recent achievements include developing of manufacturing platforms for retroviral vectors, tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, and CAR T therapies. Outcomes from CPRIT-supported technologies include signed license deals, late-stage partnering discussions, the optimized clinical-grade workflows, accelerating therapeutic development, and commercializing opportunities. So that's the slate. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Smith? All right.
Okay, so we're in the process of 26-1 now, and I think you're all familiar with the 4 different RFAs that we have: the therapeutic, device diagnostic, new technologies, and seeds. Next slide. So this was the schedule, the timeline for 26-1. We've already gotten the full application deadline done, and now we'll basically, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but basically now they're being reviewed. There's 164 applications that'll be reviewed, and we'll winnow them down probably to around 24 that we'll do it in-person presentations and full due diligence on. Next slide, please. So this is the number. We got 164 applications for $1.139 billion, and we only have 72 million. So it'll be interesting. What we did too, one of the things I wanted to mention that we did is we tried, because sometimes with seeds especially, they get kind of lost in the mix, that if you're on a panel and you've got a seed and you've got a company that's requesting 20 million, they kind of want you to have the same amount of data for your seed company that you do for the company that's doing a clinical trial. So I broke these down. The seeds, basically, there's 12 panels total. So 3 panels to do seeds, and then 5 panels to do therapeutics, and then we combine device and diagnostics, and 4 panels to do that. So the idea basically is to try and compare apples to apples as best we can. And again, of course, we try and within the groups like therapeutic, like if it's CAR T, we try and kind of combine those together, or if it's, other types of technologies, we do try and group them, and we do try and get people on the panels that are familiar with those technologies. But as you can see, when you expand to 164, it's a little tough to, have every panel that has, that technology as one of their, core competencies. But we do the best we can with the people we have, and we've got great people. I think we've got like almost 160 peer reviewers now. So we have quite a selection. And a couple of things that I think are interesting, I just want to, do I have a couple more minutes?
Oh, sure.
I think the one thing is that when it comes back to 25-2, the PDRC were the only people. We didn't have outside reviewers. We had our PDRC just do that whole round. And I think the funny part at the end, they're almost like satisfied sitting back on, yeah, we picked some pretty damn good companies. And you're like, it's a little self-fulfilling, I think, but okay, you know. But I think that they were pleased with the companies and the progress that the companies that CPRIT is funded have made, which to me is a great indication of, because they're very critical. And so I think the fact that happened, I think was really, really good. So I wanted to mention that. Next slide, please. So this is a distribution of where all the companies that out of the 164 came from. And you can see that obviously the bulk came from Texas, 104, but still quite a few outside of Texas, and a couple international submissions too. So next slide, please. And this is just another breakdown, so you'll have the slides for it. And then finally, we have one other slide. And this is kind of a breakdown of what it costs to do the peer review by cycle. Pardon me? Yeah, Heidi probably can.
We'll just talk about the steps then.
Talk about what?
The steps.
Oh,
Each of
okay.
the steps.
So, the PDRC honoraria, of course, is the, Product Development Review Committee. And so they basically are going to, build regardless of how many panels we have or how many cycles we have. So that's
That's a help.
kind
Progress
of,
reports.
what's it?
Progress reports.
Yeah. Yeah, they do progress reports too. And some of them actually, we have some board observers. And so they'll also be used as board observers as well. And in fact, one of them I used quite extensively on the Onco response deal. I wanted to make sure that he was convinced that the company was really worth investing in. And so I use them primarily now for very deep dive kind of materials. They're very, very helpful when it comes to that. The other thing we've done too, and that's just an aside, but we have companies present to the PDRC almost every month now. Every couple of weeks, we try and bring a company in. And what we found from that, and that's another benefit too of the 25-2 cycle, is we got a detailed view of the companies. Because they wanted money from us, they told us everything about them. And so between that and getting them to come present to the PDRC, it's quite useful. Peer review panels, just what I talked about before. We put these panels together every new cycle. They've helped out in different ways depending on what the RFA looks like. But in general, what they do is once the preliminary examinations are reviewed, preliminary examinations are usually reviewed by the PDRC primarily, but we have used peer reviewers as well to augment that. But their main role is when we put these panels together of 7 to 9 people, they're the ones that actually do the heavy lifting when it comes to looking at the companies that have been selected to move to full application and onto a 3-hour, question and answer. Application receipt and support, that.
I think that's GDIT.
Oh, is that GDIT?
Yeah.
And business diligence and IP due diligence, and these are interesting too. At one point in time, we had another company, I don't remember the name of it, but we had another company do almost like a scientific due diligence, right? But that's because we didn't have the peer reviewers that we have now. So we've been able to kind of eliminate, in very rare circumstances, there may be a question that comes up that none of our peer reviewers can answer, and then we'll seek outside help. But that's pretty rare now. And so basically the business due diligence is more like an integrity check. In this day and age with AI and all the different things, we got to verify whether is this publication real? Are these people real? I mean, it's gotten to that level of concern that we feel necessary to do that and delve into that. So that's a big part of it. And the IP due diligence is kind of self-evident, right? I mean, at some time I'll get back to doing it and that number will drop precipitously. I think I need a raise. And then, so you had the cycles there. And so they're relatively consistent, it looks, across the board. A little bit more IP due diligence. And again, the more companies that we select to move forward to due diligence, obviously, the more expensive that is. And then, but I think the biggest expense, if it's to increase because of the number of increased applications, is really at the PDRC level. Because when it gets to full application, we're only capable of handling probably about 24. And so I think that number will stay relatively consistent. And then what you'll see out of that 24, and this time was kind of an anomaly, 25-1 was an anomaly, where only 8 out of 24 companies actually made it through to due diligence. Usually it's about 50%. That was obviously a third. So that's a little bit, and that would obviously, especially on the IP side, if we got to go through due diligence 5 versus 8, it'll be another $50,000 to $80,000.
So thank you very much for preparing the slide. It's really informative. And I think it's the first time I've seen, maybe the Oversight Committee has seen, is how much a cycle costs CPRIT and sort of overhead costs. And so it's about $1 million per cycle.
Yeah.
And I guess my question that, well, that's a lot of money for overhead, takes up a big hunk of our budget.
Right.
Does that suggest to you that we should do fewer cycles, fewer larger cycles, if each cycle is going to cost $1 million?
Yeah, you raise a really good point. And this is where kind of it dovetails with using, if we continue to do what we did in 25-2 this time, right? And only use companies that we are already funding, that it drops the cost dramatically, right? Because they don't have to go through due diligence because they already have, right? And it's only PDRC members, so we don't use any outside peer reviewers. So that number is probably about right. It was $250,000 to do 25-2. So if you think about it, if we do 26-1 and there's money left over, we'll probably do 26-2 just like we did 25-2. And instead of it being $2 million, $1 million a cycle, it'll probably be about 1.2 for the whole year.
So, what I think you're saying is the plan is to do one major cycle a year. Instead of like, I think what we did in the past is 2 or 3 major cycles a year.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea to bring down the overhead. And the flip side is with the money we say, we could fund more companies or research.
Right, exactly.
Great
So-
plan. Thank you.
It'll be really interesting to see. I really thought last year with the number of companies that we had and using 24 that we probably would expend all the money. We still didn't. And again, because we negotiate these down now too, we have another 10%. So even if you were to do the whole 72 million, let's say, if we negotiated 10% down, we'd still have 7.5 million to supplement companies. So I think this is a system that works well. Like I said, this is the first time we did 25-2, but I was pretty pleased. I think that the PDRC was pretty pleased. And so I think this is the model kind of what we're going to do going forward.
Do you see any potential cost savings now that you've broken down the budget?
See any cost savings?
Cost savings in the way we operate?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to add, we will have some cost savings in terms of the IP due diligence because as Ken indicated, and I have reported to you, I am planning on moving Ken back over to the Chief Intellectual Property and Due Diligence Officer and recruiting a new Chief Product Development Officer. Ken has done me and CPRIT a tremendous favor by serving as the Chief Product Development Officer, coming in at a point when we were, at our lowest point in terms of applications received, and we were really wondering whether we kind of tapped out the market. And Ken came in and is really responsible for the numbers that we see now, but I need him to be working on the IP database. He performs the IP due diligence for us. And so that is a savings then on outside counsel. So that's one thing that will have some cost savings.
But, thank you so much.
Dr. Rice.
Go ahead.
Thank you for those comments, of course, always.
Thank you.
I wondered about the idea, though, that 1.1 over 72, if that's our number, is about 1.3%. 1.3% sounds like a very fair amount to expect to use as your cost of finding great companies. So I kind of was going to offer the other thought that, I mean, this year we got to where we were because you had a smaller number and you weren't going to be able to fund too much, et cetera, as the issue you mentioned in 25-2. But I also was just making the point, I think, that 1.3% of the cost of 72 million is to find great companies. Sounds like a pretty efficient system, actually, as opposed to something that's got a lot of waste is my wonder if that's the right way to think about it.
I'll say this, we are talking about the product development peer reviewers, but let me just expand this wider to both prevention and academic research. I mean, the reason why CPRIT has seen the success that we have seen is because of these peer reviewers. They are, again, another unsung hero of CPRIT, and it is integrity of our process, the great awards that get selected and the feedback that we get from them. So, we always approve the honorary policy in August, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that in August, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to say how important, obviously, the product development reviewers are, but academic research and prevention also.
We'll have one last question, Mr. Montgomery.
Dr. Smith, thank you very much. I just wondered, last year, because of the cumbersome nature of the application process, we ended up with a backlog. Applications had to be carried forward. So first question, have we made up that difference? Have we caught up with the backlog? And second one, do you see a change in funding requests similar to what the academic side saw with the, whatever changes are going on outside of CPRIT from Washington, et cetera? So 2 short questions.
Yeah, that definitely seen, it's gotten worse over the years, right? It started about really when I came to CPRIT, the funding has just kind of dried up, and we have people on the PDAC who basically, do this every day in terms of like investing in companies. And they always talk about there's this big gap in between very, very early companies and companies that are in phase 3. And everybody in between, unless you have the appropriate data, more data, more data, more data. And so, and the clinical trials are going through the roof, right? The clinical trials, talk about eggs. I mean, clinical trials have doubled in a lot of cases. It's just unbelievable. You see, we have quotes now for $250,000 a patient. I mean, it doesn't go very far. And so that's been a big issue. So both cost of things have gone up, as well as getting supplemental funding, running a B round or C round, really hard to find. And that's what happened with OncoResponse. And that's where CPRIT can help, right? We took an equity position, and that brought in other investors. And so we try and think internally of how to help these existing companies and how to help them raise money. And Kristen spent a lot of time this past week with the family offices. Trying to find matching funds has become an issue for our companies. And so we're trying to find ways to basically make sure that the money that we actually allocate gets spent and actually used. And that's an issue right now, just because of the dearth of funding. The backlog, that was kind of a little bit self-created in a way, and now we've eliminated it. The only thing that's a backlog now, it's really a contingency. But if OncoResponse makes that milestone, that $3 million will come out of 26-1, which is, kind of should have been 25-2, but we're going to move it into 26-1. But other than that, we have no expectation that we'll move companies from one cycle into the next.
One quick. Are we driving, I'm shorter than Montgomery. Are we driving like Silicon Valley? We talk about, you got a VC funder, and then all of a sudden there's a group that follow. Are we leading any, or are we seeing where if CPRIT does the funding, others are coming in? Are you seeing much of that yet?
Yeah, like I said, OncoResponse is a really good example of that. If CPRIT hadn't gone in, the other people wouldn't have gone in. I don't know if it's still as attractive as it was 5 years ago when you got a CPRIT grant that automatically people came. But I still think it's something that attracts other investors.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Mr. Burgess has certified compliance for the product development award process. I've reported a conflict of interest for one of the product development applications we will consider today, DP 250167. Are there any other conflicts of interest that have not been reported? Members, you have the list of applications and grant amounts recommended by the PIC for the product development grant awards. We will approve the PIC's recommendation if 2/3 of the Oversight Committee members present and voting agree. There is one product development award slate constituting 8 supplemental grant recommendations. We will take separate vote on DP 250167. For the remaining 7 recommendations, rather than taking a separate vote on each grant mechanism, I will ask for a vote to approve the entire slate. If a member wants to consider one or more award recommendations separately from the vote on the slate, please make a motion to do so now. First, we will consider DP 250167. I'll entertain a motion to approve the PICS award recommendation for DP 250167.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, the motion carries. I will note for the record that the chair did not vote on this recommendation. I'll entertain a motion to approve the PICS remaining 7 recommendations for supplemental awards for product development research.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, the motion carries. I will now entertain a motion delegating contract negotiation authority to the CEO and CPRIT staff and to authorize the CEO to sign the contracts on behalf of CPRIT.
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Members, Ms. Doyle notified the board on May 16th that she seeks authority to disperse grant funds in advance to the 8 companies we have just approved for awards. Are there any questions for Ms. Doyle regarding her request? Pursuant to the General Appropriations Act, Article 9, Section 4.02A, do I have a motion to authorize CPRIT to disperse grant funds via advance payments upon execution of any contract documents related to the supplemental grants and the successful completion of tranches to the 8 companies approved for awards today? All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to agency business, item 10, which is behind tab 7. The chair recognizes Ms. Doyle to present her appointments to the Scientific Research and the Prevention Program Committees.
Oversight Committee members, the 7 recommendations that I have for appointments to the Scientific Research and Prevention Program Committees, those are our peer review committees, are in your packet beginning on page 7.2 through 7.5. 6 of them will be academic research, 1 will be for product development. Happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions? Any questions for Ms. Doyle? Is there a motion to approve the CEO's 7 appointments to the Scientific Research and Prevention Program Committees? All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Turning to agenda item 11, I recognize Ms. Doyle to present the presiding officer's new appointment to the Geographic Diversity Advisory Committee.
So I am presenting the presiding officer's appointment of Dr. Cox to the Geographic Diversity Advisory Committee.
Are there any questions for Ms. Doyle? Is there a motion to approve Dr. Cox to the Geographic Diversity Advisory Committee?
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to our anticipated advisory committee presentation for this OC meeting. These are always very informative. Today we'll have the University Advisory Committee presentation. We'll recognize Dr. LeBeau, who will introduce Dr. Sean to present the University Advisory Committee report.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to introduce Dr. Subhash Chauhan, who is the professor and division chief of Cancer Immunology and Microbiology Division and director of the South Texas Center of Excellence in Cancer Research at School of Medicine at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Dr. Chauhan is an internationally recognized cancer researcher. His primary interest is to identify and characterize diagnostic and therapeutic targets for cancer. To this end, he utilizes a variety of approaches such as genomics and proteomics to identify biomarkers that are aberrantly expressed or localized in cancer cells to develop newer tools for early disease diagnosis. His lab is also developing novel targeted therapeutic modalities for the treatment and diagnosis of cancers, such as antibodies and nanoparticle encapsulated drugs. He has a major commitment to training, and he's trained and mentored numerous students, postdoctoral fellows, and junior faculty. And this research has resulted in the publication of over 180 peer-reviewed manuscripts and significant extramural funding from NIH and DOD and other agencies as well. In addition to the many high-impact research publications that he has several patents that are related to drug delivery systems, nanoparticle formulations, and antibodies. He's in great demand as a lecturer at national and international forums. But one of the things that I want to specifically comment on is really the exceptional and masterful job that he has done in building the cancer research programs at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. When he was recruited to UTRGV, he successfully established a new department, the Immunology and Microbiology Department, and the South Texas Center of Excellence in Cancer Research, which I think he's going to tell us a little bit about today. He's received other awards, such as the STAR Award, of $5 million from the University of Texas system, and substantial major funding from CPRIT, including an institutional truck award. We're so pleased that he has joined us today in person. Thank you, Dr. Chauhan.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Lebal, for this kind introduction. And I'm really privileged to be here and really honored to present University Committee a report, and I will also present some of the data what we developed. And thank you very much for advocating for the tech. I come from tech, so maybe next slide, please. So this is a university committee, and I'm filling role of Dr. Carlos Artiega, who is one of the most renowned cancer researcher at University of Texas Southwestern Medical School. As you can see, he's all the way here in Dallas, and I'm vice chair of this committee, and I'm all the way in South, as you can see here. And all our members in this committee, they are institutional representatives or administrative leaders or center directors. They are either CPRIT scholars or funded through CPRIT, or they are regional representation. So we have a variety of individuals in our university committee. So we typically meet every year, and last time in 2024 we met, and our main charge for this committee is to look for different RFAs and how money can be allocated. We also decide in 25.1 RFAs, and based on budget allocation, we can say, okay, either we can increase the cycle or reduce the cycle. We also discuss for different mechanisms that are really required and that can really make an impact on CPRIT funding. So again, in February 2027-25, we again met and looked for 26 RFAs, what RFAs we need to look for. We recommended some of the new RFAs for 26.1 and 26.2 cycle. And our focal discussion is literally on a recruitment program, how we can recruit outstanding individuals from across the nation, and look for individual investigator research award. I will show you some of the data. This is one of our very star program. And this time we also asked for CPRIT leadership to provide some data on research on return on investment. So I'll also present some of the data on that. So as you can see here, Individual Investigator Research Award, which we say IIRA. This is one of the, I think, most premier program we have, which was started back in 2010. And so far, for this cycle, at least for 25 cycle, so we received 220 applications, and 28 applications were recommended for funding. And overall strike rate is about 13%, which is more than NCI, I will say. NCI is funding at a 10% right now, but our is 13%. But it is a little lower than other NIH institutes if you look for. The other RFA, if you look for like children's adolescent, we have a strike rate of about 17%. So we received 36 applications, 6 were funded. And clinical trial, again, we received 26, 3 were funded. The strike rate is about 11%. So overall, if you look for carefully, then our average strike rate is about 13%. In 25.2 cycle, which we are here, the core facility, this is again one of our star program and has really huge impact in our cancer research across the Texas. And probably we are the state where we have most state-of-the-art facilities, and all because of thanks to you, because of your intellectual thought process, we are able to fund these top-notch core facilities across the nation, across the Texas. So here you see strike rate is this time is 57%. We received 19 applications, 11 were funded. It is because a lot of applications are coming which are competitive renewal. So that's why strike rate is high here, which is really good. We received 96 applications for high impact and high risk award. Out of them, 17 were funded. Strike rate is about 18%. Early clinical investigator, this is we received 7 applications, 3 are recommended for funding, about 43% strike rate. And here, I like to just come down here on track. So in track IRA, we received 18 applications. 1 was funded, which we need to look for why our strike rate is relatively low here. And this is a pilot project program. 14 were received and 3 were recommended for funding. So overall strike rate is about 21%. So track CFS, this is again a track institution core facility program, which we started. And we received 6 applications and only 1 was recommended for funding. So again, we need to look more carefully why the strike rate is low in these areas. So here, this is our recruitment data funding information. So established investigator, we received 9 applications, 5 were recommended for funding for about 30 million. The strike rate is 56, again, which is very good. Recruitment of Rising Star, we received 14 applications, only 1 was recommended for funding. So again, we need to look for why strike rate is low in this side. And first time recruitment, again, we received 45 applications, 24 were recommended for funding for about $48 million. And again, here success rate is about 53%. So overall, if you look for, we received total 68 applications and for about $82 million, and the strike rate is about 44%. So here, this is really a very exciting slide. I'd like to explain more here. So since inception of this IIRA award back in 2010, that's why we have more solidified data here in this category. So total, we have funded 528 applications so far with about $496 million. And if you look for follow-up funding, or I will say return on investment, is almost similar, 489. And total 88 patents were filed through these mechanisms, through these grants, about 1,800 publications, 36 clinical trials, and total enrollment of patients is about 4,500, which is really very exciting, by the way. Being a researcher, I can say this is really, really very impressive. If you look for any other mechanism for children and adolescents, we funded total 61 applications. And again, here, and the follow-up funds are 40 million. And total number of patient enrolled is about 5,000 because these are more related to patient care. So all these mechanisms are really doing very well. And especially, again, we put a star here on IIRA. This is a very high reward mechanism. So core facility, again, here you will see very the striking number here. So total award, so far we have about 83, and total funding, what we provided is about 328 million. And if you look for return on investment is about 1,600 million, which is really, really very good. And total patent about 50, and patient enrollment is pretty good, 7,800, and total publications are about 2,000, 1952, more precise. If you look for this high risk impact, high impact and high risk award, again, this is a very high rewarding mechanism. As you can see, we awarded total 235 applications. And if you look for return on investment, we invested 50 million, and the follow fund or return on investment is about 80 million. And we have pretty good patient enrollment data here. A multi-investigator award, again, this is a very unique program where people just submit application from multiple institutions. We bring a team together. So far we have funded 41 application, and with $211 million. And again, look for the return on investment. It's about 307. And total number of patient enrollment here is 12,000. So overall, like all these funding it is going because of your blessings. So they are really, really giving good return on investment. So now I'm coming to TREC. This is a relatively a new program. We started this discussion back in 2019 when I came down to Rio Grande Valley. And I'm really very thankful to CPRIT for conceiving this idea for TREC. And you see here, so far in TREC, the first award, we funded 5 applications, 2 back in 2021 and 3 in 2023. So out of 7, 8 institutions, 5 of the institutions, they have TREC award of about 29 million or 30 million, you can say. So since this is a new program, so we have total 2 patent filed and 63 publications. And I think the return on investment will increase a little bit more, Dr. Libau, if you see the further data, what we received. And major instrumentation, we funded 3 applications for about $3 million. And TREC pilot project, we funded 5 pilot projects. And TREC institutional postdoctoral fellow, we funded 1 application. So all these are new mechanisms. So that's why you are not seeing the data, what you like to see as the oversight committee. But eventually you will start seeing some of the data. So here, this is some metrics for when we recruit investigator, like established investigator. So total 67 investigator are accepted, and total 398 million we invested in them, and look for the return on investment is about $520 million. And total patient enrollment is about 5,500, which is again pretty good. Similarly, we are seeing success throughout in Rising Star and first-time tenure track faculty. So basically, where the money is going is really, it's worth going. So as University Committee also asked CPRIT leadership to provide some data on how we are doing male versus female when we are funding applications, especially for their success rate. And this data is for recruitment. So sometime we have seen females are doing better, sometime we are seeing males are doing better. But when I see overall, then I don't see a major disparity, except if you look for 2 years, back in 2018 and 2020, there we see less female receive those awards. Then when we look for a deeper dive, then females receive award which are more on either first time tenure track or Rising Star. So we like to just recommend more females candidate to be nominated for senior faculty members for the 6 million award. So majority of them, they receive funding in this category, Rising Star, or in the other category. So we like to see more female candidates are being nominated for the $6 million award. So overall, this is a value proposition which is compiled by Perryman Group. So here, overall, if you like to see, so by reducing the burden of cancer, it provides a lot of benefits. Number one, benefit to individual, to families, hospitals, state, and local governments. If you look for, and what it does, it provides basic medical research, and it's a part of society. And you will see, I will show in a couple of slides, like how it improved the overall, like for training and all those things. So all those money what is going to the community, they are really making an impact. And if you look for every single dollar we spent through CPRIT, it saved $2.3, which is pretty good, almost double. And then if you look for overall lead, it cost about $30 or 29.73 for treatment saving and all economic benefit if you look for. In the last year, if you see the current total annual impact of all CPRIT operation, prevention, screening, and research program, it include about 672.2 million in output. This is the real gross, and it is in 2024, and it created about 7,640 jobs. When you look for secondary and its downstream benefit, then it is even higher. Like your total value proposition is about 27.1 billion, and total output for jobs is about 224 jobs. So our recommendation for next is we want to continue scholar recruitment program, although we want to reduce from 12 cycle to 9 because of budget constraint. And we like to focus on high impact funding mechanism like core facility, which is, as I mentioned, like it is really high reward program, clinical trial focused RFA, research training RFAs which are more targeted for track eligible institutions, so that money can go to those low and mid-tier institutions as well. And RFA focusing on emergent cancer impacting taxes. And I really appreciate your comment on the early onset of cancer, because we are seeing cancer in younger population, breast cancer in young women, and colorectal cancer in young folks. I think this is an area of concern, and we need to look for these more carefully in a scientific way. So summary and conclusion for this part is like, despite of all the COVID catastrophe, we are still making a good progress. Going forward, it will be necessary to reevaluate the program and to address the evolving national research funding environment. As you see, like in NIH, there are a lot of chaos going on. So this is an opportunity for CPRIT to make really an impact here, so that Texas is not suffered from those funding constraints. And whenever I go to any national, international meeting, CPRIT is always appreciated. I just came back from AACR meeting, and everybody was saying like, okay, you guys are very lucky, you have CPRIT money. So your work is being appreciated at national and international forum. I can tell you that. Being a university committee member, I truly appreciate all the work what you do, and we are very proud of you. So here, I'm just like to give you some specs about one of the track program, which is led by our university at University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. So first of all, why we needed that program. So if you see here in Rio Grande Valley, I'm just showing you a map. We are right there in the South Texas, from where Dr. Hernandez and I come from. So we cater about 1.4 million people in Rio Grande Valley, but there is no cancer research facility there before we started back in 2019. And now it is supported, our facility is supported by CPRIT. So we are really thankful to CPRIT for providing us that funding, and this is making a difference now. So you can see our group is very prolific in submitting grants, and I'm sure all other tech institutions are doing the same, taking the same approach. So here, I'm just giving you data for August 24 cycle, because this is the data I could collect. So our institution submitted about $90 million grant application. And obviously we are not that lucky as MD Anderson and other top tier institutions. They submit 2 grants and they go 2. We have to submit a lot more. So we are doing that part. At least our grants are going out. Our name is going out. It will take some time, but we are getting there. We are working with a lot of foundations. As you can see here, we are working with a foundation, it's called Good Days Foundation, which is providing us a cervical cancer program, a prevention program. We are working with a Memphis-based foundation, it's called Coastal Foundation. They are supporting our pancreatic cancer program. We are working with a local foundation, SSA Foundation, and we are also start working with some of the industries. So we are putting stone everywhere, and I know somewhere it will click. If you see here, with your help, UTRGV was successful to receive this $18.4 million grant. And again, this is for strengthening our cancer research group here in Rio Grande Valley. So again, our institution is really proud of this success, and this success could not happen without your support. So we truly appreciate your support again. So what our center is doing, we are involved in a lot of activities. We are developing a cervical cancer prevention program there, which is to just navigate, provide resources, encourage people for HPV screening and those kind of things, and HPV vaccination. Our medical students come to the cancer center, they see what we are doing, and we provide them hands-on training on some of the aspects. So again, this is again a very good thing for our medical students. Not only medical students, our postdoctoral fellow, and they are also receiving world-class training. In addition, what we did, we are also started a pathway program, because we like to pick a student right from high school. So we also bring our high school students to our facility and show them. So at least like out of 100, if one want to become cancer scientist, that's a win for me. In addition, with the help of your support, we are conducting a seminar series, STCCR seminar series, and we are able to invite people from across the nation, top-notch people who come to Rio Grande Valley, and we can showcase them. In addition, what we did, we are also conducting a international conference on cancer health disparity. This is the platform we have developed, and we successfully conducted 3 conferences in Rio Grande Valley, just to showcase what we are. And I think people who ever come from outside, they really appreciate the reason, number 1. And number 2, what we are doing is really appreciable. I know CPRIT also do a conference every other year. So we like to welcome CPRIT leadership to come to Rio Grande Valley, and we will provide all the logistic support to have a conference, CPRIT conference in our region. And actually, I also look for a venue on South Padre Island, and we will invite all of you for that. Thank you very much.
Very good presentation. Thank you, Dr. Shahan. Are there any questions? Dr. Rosenfeld.
Really great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a few quick comments. When I sit in on legislative meetings and the economic development people talk, it's always about jobs, jobs, jobs. And on one of your last slides, you pointed out that CPRIT has created about 7,600 jobs. Great number. I think you should put that in a marquee with flashing lights and really emphasize that. I know that as doctors and scientists, we like to look at grants and publications, but a lot of people want to know the job. So I just emphasize that a little more.
Sure.
And just one quick thing, you also mentioned about the core and the other grants creating 3,600 publications. And I was wondering if you had any breakdown on those publications. For instance, how many of those publications are in journals with ratings of, say, 10 or over, or some are arbitrary number to emphasize not only the number of publications, but the quality of publications.
Yeah, Dr. Bob.
And just one last thing, so then I'll be done, is speaking for myself and maybe the Oversight Committee, if you send us a invitation to come down to the Rio Grande Valley, be more than happy to come down and see what you're doing. So thank you.
You stole my words. Actually, I wanted to invite you, but I was not sure whether I am supposed to do or not. But please visit us.
I can answer your question. We do have all of the information on the journals that those publications appeared in. We would have to generate an algorithm to look at the impact factor and score those that were over high impact, like over impact factor 10. But that's a common metric that cancer centers use, so we could certainly do that.
Mr. Montgomery.
Thank you very much. In your presentation of the number of patients enrolled in clinical trials, what's the time period covered by those numbers? Is that 1 year, 10 years? Was it historic?
That's all time.
All time. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? Dr. Hernandez?
Very nice presentation, Doctor. Welcome once
Thank you,
again.
Dr. Anand.
Always a blessing in disguise, right? So thank you. And Dr. Bo, thank you again for your leadership. This is a great example of what this committee believes in and supporting the entire state of Texas. And we're now reaping the rewards of it. And we expect this. I mean, you're moving, from my perspective, 30 miles an hour. You need to kick it in like a Shelby, go a little bit faster and apply more aggressively and grow all the East Texas, West Texas. We want everybody to grow. So all Texas can benefit from it. So thank you very much for your leadership and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir, for being here. We appreciate your presentation. Good luck on your
Yes.
continued work. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's move to item 12, the internal auditor report. The chair now recognizes Mr. Graves to join the hot seat and present the internal auditor report. He'll be joined by Mr. Grant Weaver, our CFO. Mr. Graves.
Weaver Internal Audit Report with Mr. Grant Weaver by my side.
Peas and carrots.
It's always. Well, if you turn to tab 9 in your materials, that starts our report. Page 9.1 is our summary. I will be as brief as I can. We already spent around an hour with the audit committee and talked about everything in detail. Of course, I'm always happy to answer any questions that you might have. We have 3 internal audit reports to present to you today, and then a status report on the 2 follow-ups that we're performing. On page 9.5 is our post-award grant monitoring report. This audit scope included the processes to for grant applicants to submit a financial status request and receive the reimbursement for those, and stopped at the actual release of those funds. There's a lot of other processes that occur in post-award grant monitoring, but we really just focused on that one area since we have already previously looked at the complete area of post-award grant monitoring. This was a very testing heavy year for internal audits. We tested a lot of different applications as these came through. And overall, if you turn to page 9-10 in your report, you'll see in the executive summary that this received a satisfactory rating, along with both the objectives of control design and control effectiveness being satisfactory as well. We had 5 findings. 4 of those were moderately risk rated. 1 was low. Really, they all center, well, all but the last one center around having some policies, more robust policies and procedures to increase collaboration and effectiveness to make sure that the applications are processed and paid within the state guidance timeline. The last one is low risk rated, and it just has to deal with some contract cleanup, some language in the contracts with the grantees, getting that cleaned up a little bit moving forward. Management has responded to all of these. We're comfortable with their response. That includes some of the updated procedures and inner collaboration within the 3 different groups that review each one of these FSRs before it's released. And then some commentary about potential new grant management system. I will highlight in here that we did not identify any release of funds that was an error. All the errors were identified through the 3-pronged review process. So I wanted to highlight that for you. This was all the findings really are about increasing efficiency and flow of the FSR review. Any questions on that report? Silence means no. We can always go back if you have them. I'll move on to, if you look at page 9-22 in your handouts, that is our internal audit report of our non-grant expenditures. Again, very testing heavy. The last time we performed a full audit of this area was in 2015. This one received, if you look at page 927 of your materials, this received a strong rating on our report, the highest rating. And therefore the objective A also received a strong rating. We did have 4 findings, 1 moderately rated, the other 3 were low risk rated. Really the recommendation to address these issues centers around increasing some details of some of the review as the transactions are entered into the bill pay system, the state systems. And then there was a minor issue about some coding cleanup. Again, management's addressed all of those. And I think looking forward to getting some of those things implemented. Any questions on this report? Our last report is on page 9-37 of your packets. So just a brief quick history of this. This is our report on this is our audit advisory report. So there is no risk rating on it because it was advisory in nature, centered around process improvement. A quick history here is that the comptroller for this state performed a review of all state agencies and their use and utilization of the purchase card rebate program and published a statewide report listing the performance of all those agencies. And so our task was to help CPRIT understand all the ins and outs of that, and then also improve their processes whereby CPRIT could actually realize some of the rebates from that program. That program centers around paying the P card statement within the highest amount of rebate you can get is if you pay it 3 days after it's available. And then if you pay it within 30 days, which is the state required for the Texas Prompt Payment Act, you get the minimum amount, and it's a sliding scale in between based on how quickly you pay it, how much rebates you can get. During that fiscal year, the 2023 fiscal year that was reviewed in that report, CPRIT could have achieved less than $500 in rebates and total usage based on that. So it kind of gives you a scale of magnitude as to what we're talking about, and that the P card usage has not significantly increased since that review. It's about the same. We did have 2 recommendations for improvement. Really, it centers around having some procedures in place, recognizing some of the timing and significant activities as they occur on a recurring monthly basis to review, reconcile, and then enter the data into the Texas payment system, the CAP system, so that it can be paid promptly and that CPRIT can actually realize some of those rebates. Again, we're talking, somewhere between the $440 to $480 range on an annual basis. So if we meet the 30-day minimum, we're going to at least get the minimum rebate, and our recommendations reflect that. So any questions for that report?
Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Graves or Mr. Weaver? Cindy? No questions. You got
All
off
right.
easy, brother.
Well, we had a very healthy and lengthy discussion in the audit committee. So the audit committee had a good chance to talk about all of these. We talked about them in detail. The only other activities I have to report to you today is our follow-ups. We are almost complete with our 2 follow-ups. We had 2 findings. one related to IT, one related to communications. We're fairly confident that both of these will close. We just have to wrap up and perform our reporting and wrap up meetings. The last thing I would just turn your attention to is on page 9.4 of your materials. The last box at the bottom of our table reflects the total number of open findings. With that, you'll see the very far bottom right-hand box says 10, but just know that 9 of those are from current audits that we just disclosed to you. So you only have you have 10 findings, 9 of which are from this year's audits that we'll anticipate to close next year. So that just gives you an idea of, you know, the total number that we've identified over the years and how diligent CPRIT staff have been to address and remediate open findings. We'll have those 2 follow-up reports, our annual report and our audit plan at our next Oversight Committee meeting to present to you for approval.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the internal audit report over post-award grant monitoring, the internal audit report over non-grant expenditures, and the purchase card program advisory engagement audit advisory report?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Graves. I will move now to item 13, the Chief Financial Officer report. The chair recognizes Mr. Grant Weaver to present the Chief Financial Officer's report.
Good morning, Oversight Committee members. We've had a full slate of activities this morning, so I'll try to keep it brief. I know people have other places to be. Mr. Taylor told me no more than 5 minutes. So if we run out of time, feel free to circle back on anything I might have glossed over, but I'll try to keep it within those general parameters. Referring to tab 10 of the book, in terms of our second quarter FY 2025 operating budget, most of our funds in our administrative categories, as are expected around this time of year, have either been expended or encumbered and are otherwise spoken for. Again, about what we'd expect at this time of the year, not a lot noteworthy there. Moving on to our revenue, which has been a topic of great interest this legislative session and continues to be an area of focus for us. I wanted to update you on our deposits from the last, or I should say the second quarter of FY 2025. We took in about $285,000. As it's typically the case, WellReg contributed most of that money in the quarter. We received about 200 royalty payment attributable to the fourth quarter of calendar year 2024. And that was about $240,000, an increase of about 120% year over year from the fourth quarter of 2023. Since that time, we've also received the first quarter 2025 deposit amount of about $208,000, which is also about a 60% increase over year for the first quarter in 2024. And so as I was preparing this update for you, I came across Merrick's quarterly investor update, where they provide information to their stakeholders, stockholders, and the community. And of note, WellReg just last week was approved for a third indication by the Food and Drug Administration. And also within the last couple of months, the European Commission approved 2 indications for that drug. And so, as I kind of told you last time, the money that we're receiving primarily represents or is attributable to their US sales, but they continue to expand globally, receive approvals to sell that product in other countries. And so I'm optimistic as we go forward that number will continue to improve and provide good news to apprise you of as we go forward. Similarly, on that note, I wanted to mention that we've taken in about $11 million in total revenue since CPRIT's inception, just within the last 3.5, so 15 years, $11 million just within the last 3.5 years. We've taken in about $6 million of that, or 55%. And so again, just positive indicator, I think, of where things are trending in that respect. Moving on to our FY 2025 second quarter performance reports that were filed with the LBB and the governor's office. Of the two key measures that we are required to report, we have exceeded performance in the number of individuals receiving prevention services at about 475,000 total year to date. So we're right about where we need to be there, if not a little bit ahead of schedule. Still, through 2 quarters at least of the fiscal year, there have been no company relocations. Moving on to our debt issuance history. And on April 1st, we coordinated with the Public Finance Authority to issue another $78 million in commercial paper to fund grants that were awarded in FY 20 through FY 2024. Just as a point of interest, coincidentally, in the second quarter, the U.S. Department of Treasury for the first time began selling 6-week Treasury bills as a benchmark security, which actually coincides with the commercial paper that was issued on CPRIT's behalf on April 1st. Those were issued with an initial maturity of 6 weeks. So just as a point of comparison, 6 weeks treasuries that were sold on April 1st carried an interest rate of about 4.33%, whereas the CPRIT commercial paper was issued at a rate of 4.43%. So just about 0.1% difference between what the U.S. government issues their debt for versus what it costs the state to issue debt on behalf of CPRIT. As y'all may have heard recently, Moody's rating service downgraded the federal government's bond rating to a AA rating, whereas the state of Texas still carries a AAA rating. So it will be interesting as we go forward to see if that spread between what the federal government issues at versus what CPRIT's able to finance our operations and grants at compresses even further. But I say all that to say, again, we are able to fund our operations and our grant using the very lowest cost of capital we can possibly obtain. And then finally, moving on to the last item on the Chief Financial Officer report, we wanted to apprise you of our FY 2025 appropriation strategy transfers. These are movements between our budget strategies that are authorized by the General Appropriations Act, section Article 9, Section 14.01. And as we utilize that authority, we're required to notify the governor and the LBB, which we plan to do later this week. But before we do that, we wanted to apprise you all of what's going on there. And so as we discussed a little bit earlier, now that we've concluded the award cycle for our prevention grants for the year, they've graciously allowed us to sweep about $860,000 of funds that were originally earmarked for prevention, but that are not going to be utilized with their current award slate over to the product development side, so they can put those dollars to good use in the supplements that y'all voted on just a little bit before now. And then secondly, we've authorized, our executive director has authorized a transfer of just under $2 million from our research grant strategy to our grant review and award operations strategy to fund some critical administrative expenses, including the costs of our grant management support services with GDIT of about $265,000, some anticipated lump sum payments that are related to separating CPRIT employees. As we learned last year when our previous executive director retired and caught us a little bit off guard there, we wanted to plan for that contingency as we have staff separating over the summer. And those are mandatory payments that we're required to pay, not a discretionary salary action or anything. We also are funding some of the increased honoraria costs for the product development and scientific research committees. We have augmented our grant accounting and compliance staff to help address some of the audit issues we discussed a little bit previously. And then finally, that transferred money will allow us to pay for Deloitte to come in and perform their needs assessment on the grant management platform that we discussed and that you all approved in March And we're anticipating legislative approval of that capital budget item, hopefully within the weeks or months. And so by transferring this money now, it'll allow us to get started with that first step of the Deloitte needs assessment. So with that, I will conclude the Chief Financial Officer report and turn it over.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Do we have any questions? All right. Very good. Let's move on to item 14, which is fiscal year 2026 bond issuance resolution. Chair recognizes Mr. Weaver to explain the fiscal year 2026 bond issue resolution.
As customary around this time of year, we bring to you our for approval our draft bond resolution that we plan to send to, again, the Public Finance Authority so that we can coordinate our financing for the coming fiscal year. Referring to the packet in page 11.2, again, that is the draft resolution for your consideration. And we're asking your approval to collaborate with TPFA to authorize up to $300 million in bond issuance to finance our operations in 2026 and grant awards from 2020, 2022, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Of that $300 million that we're asking you to authorize, we actually plan to issue about $298.5 million, again, to cover administrative expenses and those grants that were awarded in prior fiscal years. To date, we have issued about 3.34 billion of the total 6 billion authorized. And for your reference on the subsequent pages, 11-4 through 11-7, we've included our program description and a complete issuance history, which are materials that we usually send along to accompany the bond resolution when we transmit that over to TPFA.
Very well. Are any questions regarding the bond issuance resolution for Mr. Weaver? Dr. Rosenfeld.
The interest rates go up on the bonds. Does that affect the net amount of money that CPRIT receives?
No, it doesn't. The debt service is actually appropriated to TPFA, and they service the debt on behalf of all the agencies on behalf of whom they centrally issue the debt. So we get the clean 300 million and they pay the cost of issuance.
Any further questions? Very well. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 bond issuance resolution requesting financing for $300 million in bond proceeds by the Texas Public Finance Authority in fiscal year 2026?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on to item 15. Chair recognizes Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Heidi McConnell, to present the contract recommendations for grant management support services contract renewal and a conference venue. Welcome.
Good morning. So the first item is on page 12.1, the grant management support services contract with GDIT. This is a renewal of about $8.8 million. That includes about $7.2 million estimated for time and materials during FY26 for application receipt, as well as peer review management, and then on the on the academic research side, progress report review. In addition, there's about $1.5 million to support the grant management platform that we contract through GDIT with. Of note is there will be no enhancements planned in FY26 because we will be working on hopefully the new grant management platform build out and configuration. So with that, that's all I have.
Do you want to comment on the conference venue?
Yes, I'll go on to the conference innovation. CPRIT Innovation 7 conference venue contract. So on page 12.3 is my memo. We are seeking authorization to contract with the venue for the conference up to $350,000. This would include meeting space, catering for meals and beverages, and audiovisual services. This will either be a comprehensive contract with a hotel venue or separate contracts in the event that it is a convention center venue, because when that happens, you have to contract with the convention center for space and then separately with the preferred vendors for catering and audiovisual. The RFP did close last week, but there are some issues with a proposal that we received. So our purchasing manager is working on that to get some additional information so that we can move forward with evaluating the proposals. But we do anticipate having that decision in June. And so that's why we're seeking your approval for up to not to exceed amount of $350,000 to move forward with contracting.
Very good. Do we have any questions for Ms. McConnell? Dr. Rosenfeld?
How did, are you saying that there's been only one response to the RFP that you sent out?
No, we got 2 responses, but we have to evaluate them. Yes.
Could you tell us where they're at? Are you?
I actually haven't seen the proposals yet, so that's still with our procurement.
Okay, very excited to see how this turns out.
Me too.
Okay, let's move on with our action items. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 contract renewal with General Dynamics for grant management support services?
So moved.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to authorize CPRIT staff to contract with the venue for the Innovation 7 conference for an amount not to exceed $350,000? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. McConnell.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to item 16, the communications program update. Well, the chair recognizes CPRIT's communication director, Mark Leffler, to update us on CPRIT's communication activities. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Member, Chair, members. Real quickly, I'll always try to go brief because I'm the guy standing between y'all and lunch for the most part. So apart from some of the routine communications work that we've been doing, wanted to point out a couple things. First of all, we have been trying to update all of our CPRIT Scholar pages, make sure we've got updated photos and information for all of our scholars. It's a great tool to use to tell a little bit about what we're doing with CPRIT Scholars and that success of bringing in the best and brightest from across the country. So we try to keep that up to date. The other thing I'll point out too, and this is all in your report, in your book, as Kristen mentioned, we have had some more interest in CPRIT due to DPRIT. And as that has progressed through the legislature, it has been very positive result for CPRIT because it's being used as a model for another program going through the legislature. So we've gotten some media interest on that. And the remarkable thing here is that all the coverage I've seen about CPRIT as it related to DPRIT has been positive. There hasn't been any other mention of anything in past history of CPRIT, and that's kind of rare. And so I think that's a great tribute to the work of all of CPRIT, to your work in keeping CPRIT moving forward, and the reputation of CPRIT due to all that work is enormously positive now. And I think we're seeing that in some of the media relations. So I think that's a good sign. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Great. Thank you, Mark and Justin, for your great work as usual. It's very thorough. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move to item 18, which is subcommittee business. This is really just some points to note. Before we go into closed session to consider agenda item 17, we have a couple of things to discuss. First of all, before our next meeting in August, we want to point out that our bylaws call for the election of officers at least at the last regular meeting of each odd-numbered fiscal year, which will be in August. This means at that point, we will elect a new slate of officers. Hallelujah. The Board Governance Subcommittee works with me as the outgoing presiding officer to accept nominations and recommend candidates. If any member would like to submit a nomination, please notify me or Mr. Montgomery, the chair of the Board Governance Subcommittee, sometime before our August OC meeting. Secondly, we also use this time on every odd-numbered fiscal year to change up our subcommittee assignments. CPRIT staff will be reaching out to each of you again to fill out preference lists for new subcommittee assignments for our next biennium. Any questions regarding those two comments? Okay, now we have a special recognition and appreciation item. As we've alluded to today, this will be our last meeting with Dr. Michelle LeBeau as our Chief Scientific Officer. We've been blessed beyond measure for her service coming out of COVID, and now beyond. It has been an extraordinary effort that she has and served Texas with. I know I speak for all of us when we say that we will miss you desperately and the good work you've done on behalf of Texans. We have a resolution prepared for Oversight Committee action, but before we go through that, and I will read it, want to offer the Oversight Committee members a chance to make any remarks for Dr. LeBeau. Dr. Hernandez.
She hiding? Where's she at? She's back there. Nothing but kind words.
Yes, please come forward.
I just want to say I have myself, and I'm sure the committee members have their own commentary, but it has been an absolute pleasure working with you. I really appreciate your honesty, your integrity, ethics, and you're very candid, and I really appreciate that. And I know you do what's best for all of Texas. So from bottom of my heart, thank you very much for your sacrifice and for being with us for so long. I wish you would have stayed longer, but I know you have to go. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tommy.
You were one of the first people I met right over there. And met a lot. Excuse me. Me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you.
This whole nother story. I'll tell you later. But thank you.
Dr. Rice.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Tommy. I think we all have heartfelt expressions we want to bring to you, Dr. LeBeau, but I just want to say that thank you for being here and for being, I think a word Kristen used earlier, which struck me, but you've been our rock, our rock of scientific knowledge and vision and innovation. And so, again, hard to say this in one sentence or one paragraph, but thank you so much for the time, energy, devotion, vision that you've given us these years. And we wish for more, but we understand that we can't have everything we want. So thank you.
Dr. Patel.
Michelle, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to pester you with multiple questions on all sorts of things. And you being very calm in answering back, especially to Montgomery. I mean, that's a surprise. But at the bottom of the day, your presentations were succinct and opened up our eyes to a whole new different dimensions of cancer care, therapy, prevention. You really have helped the state of Texas. And in particular for me, you've helped open my eyes as regards seeing cancer from a different perspective altogether. And I thank you for that. I appreciate you.
Excuse me, Dr. Rosenfeld. No slight, Dr. Montgomery.
Hi, Michelle. I've been fortunate to be on the Oversight Committee for about 12 years now. And in that time, it's been my honor to know several chief scientific officers, and they've all been extraordinary. And you have fit right into that line of succession. So thank you for being here. And I guess if you leave, I can't send you sort of funny emails asking me to explain publications. So stay in touch with us, and thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Montgomery.
I think you have been universally admired and will be universally missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Margot.
That's the shortest he's ever been. I came on in 2015, and I noticed that Vince did not acknowledge that when he talked about those that came on 10 years ago, but we'll let that slip for the time being. But as I recall, I was the presiding officer when we selected. So since Wayne is not here, I'm taking full responsibility for her hire. Yeah, credit for whatever, you know, I mean, yeah, actually credit, yes. But it's been great, echoing the same sentiments of everyone else. But I will take credit for your hire. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Payne.
I just want to thank you, Michelle. It's been great getting to know you and working with you. You're my first chief scientific officer, so I think you're the best. You're outstanding. Thank you.
All right, very good. I'd like to read a resolution for action by the Oversight Committee. Ms. Payne is going to bring it to you so you can read along. And know that all of this effort is going to pay dividends so much forward. You will be, your efforts will live on and for Texas, and we so greatly appreciate that. So here's the resolution. Whereas Michelle M. LeBeau, PhD, has served as the Chief Scientific Officer of the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas since 2021. And whereas Dr. LeBeau works selflessly for and on behalf of CPRIT, giving her time, reputation, wisdom, experience, and energy to extend lives and improve the health of Texans. And whereas Dr. LeBeau earned the respect and admiration of the Oversight Committee, her CPRIT colleagues, and the greater cancer research community through her leadership of CPRIT's academic research program. And whereas, under Dr. LeBeau's guidance, CPRIT awarded 369 academic research and recruitment awards, totaling $644 million to 24 academic and research institutions throughout Texas to accelerate the momentum in the state's historic fight against cancer through the next decade. Whereas, Dr. LeBeau faithfully performed the duties of her position with equanimity, persistence, and poise. And whereas CPRIT's mission of promoting academic research, prevention, and product development research progressed under Dr. LeBeau's guidance and leadership to benefit all of Texans, now, therefore, let it be resolved that that the Oversight Committee of CPRIT hereby recognizes Michelle M. LeBeau, PhD, for her distinguished service to the citizens of the state of Texas and expresses its gratitude for her many and lasting contributions to CPRIT. And be it further resolved that an official copy of this resolution be prepared for Dr. LeBeau as an expression of the high regard by the Oversight Committee members and the CPRIT staff. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the honorary resolution? All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion unanimously carries. Thank you.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Trying to recruit you. He called me. He's a sweating bullet. What do you
Yes. Well, thank you. May I say a few words? Well, I must be an expert in using avoidance behavior because I really had not realized that this was potentially my last oversight committee meeting. So I haven't emotionally and mentally accepted it yet, but I do want to express what an honor it has been to serve in this role. I never anticipated having this opportunity. When I stepped down in June of 2021 and became a professor emerita at the University of Chicago, it was just 2 months later when the search committee called me and spoke to me about this opportunity. And as I thought about it, I my initial thinking was I wasn't ready to take on another role. But the more I thought about it and the more I considered two things, and that was the people and the mission. And the mission, CPRIT is such a unique agency, there's no other program like it in the United States. There's no other state that has had the foresight to put this amount of funding into advancing research in one of the biggest health problems in the state. And to have the opportunity to participate in an agency that takes an umbrella approach to investing in cancer prevention, in research to improve diagnosis, treatment, and survivorship, and in product development to develop new diagnostics, new treatments, new devices for cancer. And the burden of cancer in Texas, it was an easy decision. But I think it's really, when you take a position and stay in a position for a while, it's really the people that you work with that mean the most and the ones who make you stay in a position. And the opportunity to work with all of you has been such an amazing opportunity. I've learned so much from you. I've gained from your expertise and your insight, learned a lot about how to be an effective board member in this type of a position. And I've really benefited in my role as Chief Scientific Officer from the questions you ask. And it gives me time to go back and think about why you're asking them and why we need to think about what's behind that and how we can do better. So I really appreciate that opportunity. I also appreciate the amazing colleagues that I have worked with at CPRIT. And this is a place where the people and the mission come together, because it's all the people at CPRIT are remarkably committed to the mission of reducing the burden of cancer in Texas. And I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to work with this dedicated group. And I can't thank all of them enough. So thank you. Thank you all for this amazing honor and opportunity. I've been so blessed. So thank you.
We thank you, and please don't go far. You're one of our trusted advisors and one of our ambassadors. So
okay,
keep CPRIT with you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll move to our last item, which is item 17. The Oversight Committee will move into a closed session to discuss personnel matters. For the members of the public watching this meeting, we have reached the end of our agenda. I do not expect to act on other matters after returning from closed session before adjourning the meeting. We go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to discuss personnel matters. The following CPRIT staff shall join the Oversight Committee in the closed session: Dr. LeBeau, Ms. Magid, Dr. Smith, Ms. Doyle, Ms. Nelson, and Mr. Ellis. The time is 11:38 a.m. and we are now in closed session. The board will now reconvene in open session. The time is 12 o'clock noon. The Oversight Committee will not take up agenda items 19 and 20. Turning to item 21, the next regular Oversight Committee meeting will take place on August 20th, 2025. If there is no further business and there are no objections, the chair moves to adjourn this meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The meeting stands adjourned at 12:01 PM.